carry on its function as before. That is right. In other words, what they did in Aburi was to say all the decrees issued by the military since January 66, we're going to repeal them. We're going to cancel them. Because Aguirre wanted the country to be united and unitary, Decree 34, but they've decided at Aburi, we're going to cancel all those, okay? We're no longer going to go ahead with those. But then Ojukwu said that Gowon failed to inform the world that the decision taken at Aburi, the federal government meant no more than the Supreme Military Council. Okay, no one, of course, who knows the sort of advice Gowon was receiving in Lagos would be surprised by the suppression and distortion of the truth. So he said that Gowon has already started changing what was decided. So he says the actual Aburi decisions, for those who are following the history, reads as follows. Members, Ojukwu said, agree that the legislative and the executive authority of the Federal Military Council government should remain in the Supreme Military Council, to which any decision affecting the whole country should be referred for determination, provided that, were it possible for the meeting to be held, then the matter requiring determination must be referred to military governors for their comments and concurrence. If you make a decision, you've got to allow all the governors to come together and make a decision. Okay? I'm going to go very quickly because there are various things Ojukwu said in this statement which is rebutting what Gowon was saying, dishing out to the foreign press and saying, this is what we talked about in Aburi. So Ojukwu said, no, these are not what we said. And he therefore decided the best thing to do is to come up with the idea of playing this long gramophone if necessary, okay? So that everybody would know what was decided. He said it's a clear statement, the question is prepared to distort the verbatim. So it is clear, he summarized, that Gowon was prepared to distort the statement, okay, of the verbatim report of a Aburi meeting. And therefore to help the public informed the Eastern Nigerian Broadcasting Service will be playing the tape records, yes, and proceeding live at scheduled times. Arrangements have been made to transform these tape recordings into long-playing gramophone records. He said, we are also going to ahead to print and publish the documents and records of our Aburi meeting. We in the East, he said, are anxious, and that's to say the least, to see that our difficulties are resolved by peaceful means and that Nigeria is preserved as a unit. But it is doubtful, and the world must judge, whether Lieutenant Colonel Gowon attitudes and their exhibitions of his insincerity are something which can lead to a return of normalcy and confidence in the country. That's a very damning thing to say. He said, I must warn all Easterners once again to remain vigilant. The East will never be intimidated, nor will she acquiesce, in other words, agree, to any form of dictation. It is not our intention to play the aggressor. Nonetheless, it is not our intention to be slaughtered in our beds. We are ready to defend our homeland. Fellow countrymen and women, on Aburi we stand. There will be no compromise. God grant us peace in our time. So this is really, I had to read that out so we all understand that when the people said on Aburi we stand, it is the last bus stop. There's nowhere else to go if Nigeria reneged or messed up the Aburi Accord. So that is the reason why I'm drumming on this. Okay, so Ojukwu therefore fired that warning to Gowon. He should stop meddling trying to tinker the agreement that was agreed. Don't try and change it. Start implementing it. Okay? If you don't want to implement it, well, I'll have no choice but to find a way of resolving the problem for those people who are desperate to need help from the government. Remember, the people of Eastern origin have been killed, and the government is supposed to be running around to sort things out, but they're not doing that. That is where it's hurting the East a lot. January 26, Gowon held a press conference in Lagos, which he reported to reveal the agreement of the Aburi meeting. Remember, he had a meeting and said, this is what we decided. Ojukwu was saying, my goodness, this is not what we talked about. So the text of the press conference appears to be based not on the minutes of the final agreement of Aburi, but on the criticisms of those documents by the permanent secretaries. Reading the two press secretaries, reading two side by side, one wonders whether Gowon was really present at Aburi. So that's how bad the disparity between what Gowon was saying and what was discussed. It's like somebody else who wasn't even there was talking about Aburi, criticizing what they decided. But that isn't what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be implementing what was happening. Okay? So, Ojukwu then went on to say that if the Aburi agreement are not fully implemented by the 31st of December, okay? If you don't implement them by 31st of March, of 1967, remember, the conference was held on the 4th and 5th of January. February went, March just faffing around, doing nothing, exchange of words, playing with press. So Ojukwu said, if by 31st the agreements we decided have not been acted upon because it's the Eastern people who need most help, the refugees need rehabilitating. If you're not going to implement it, Ojukwu said, I shall have no alternative but to feel free to take whatever measures may be necessary to give effect in this region to those agreements. What is he saying? If the central government in Lagos are going to run away from their responsibility, I, Ojukwu, will do something to help those who are in desperate need of rehabilitation. Okay? So that is how far the Aburi Accord had degenerated. Okay? So then what happened was that Ojukwu was then, because the significance of 30th of March is to do with financial year. So whatever has happened, 1966, we're now going to finish in financial year, it's a bit like the British one, 31st of March, because the 1st of April is the beginning of the new financial year. So whatever we've done, at the end of the financial year 31st, we need to decide what to do going forward. Okay. So, on the 31st, so therefore there's something called Survival Edict. Okay? Revenue Allocation Edict. Let me explain that. When the 1st of April came, the East felt necessary that from there on, when we collect taxes, rather than pay it direct to the government in the Lagos, we use it to look after those who are in need of rehabilitation. That was step one, in the beginning of the headaches that led to Nigeria unraveling. Okay? So, for 4 months since Aburi, nothing has happened. Right? So, therefore, one of the reasons that Ojukwu did that was to make sure these people did not starve. Some salaries haven't been paid. Okay? And so on and so forth. I'll read a bit more for you. Right. So, when Ojukwu said this is what he's going to do, on the day the departure of Eastern Nigeria was fully expected, journalists arriving in for a press conference. Because when Ojukwu said that, People rushed to Enugu to go and hear what was going on. Okay? So instead, they're simply in the last, they're simply talking about one Nigeria. Ojukwu told them that he was issuing a revenue edict, yeah, appropriating all federal revenue collected in the East as a means of paying for the rehabilitation program. Remember, they've started a rehabilitation program, but no one was funding it. And Aburi, of course, supposed to fund it, but it wasn't. So Ojukwu had to collect taxes to fund it. So the decree did not affect oil revenues. Very, very important. Ojukwu didn't say those who are in the East collecting money and selling oil should pay me revenue direct. Nigeria will be threatened because they need that oil money. So Ojukwu is saying these are the tax we collected from people, company taxes and so on. Because the oil revenue, interestingly, is paid direct to Lagos. So Ojukwu was not asking for that. He's asking to collect tax and use the tax which he collects from the East, rather than handing over to the Lagos, use it for the rehabilitation. Okay. So now, as Ojukwu said, this decree did not affect oil, as I said, and these were collected. Now, the reporter was stunned. All the reporters were amazed. He said, how come? They had expected fire and brimstone, therefore to confront and say the physical problem that Ojukwu was pulling out. Ojukwu wasn't pulling out. He was trying to find a peaceful way of resolving the problem. So Ojukwu told them that the East would only pull out of Nigeria if she were attacked or blockaded. Okay? So here we go. People rushed in to go and hear Ojukwu when he says, if by the 31st nothing happened, we'll do this. So they came and they want to hear, when are you pulling out from Nigeria? When's they seceding? So they said, we're not seceding, but we will consider, we'll pull out of Nigeria if we are attacked or blockaded. Remember, the people in the East are now mixed up of those who have returnees from Lagos, from Ibadan, from Ilorin, from Sokoto, from Kanu, from Kaduna. They've all run back and with nothing doing, most of it. So the federal government, instead of doing something about what Ojukwu was saying, they gave their own decree, Decree 8. They issued a fresh decree, Decree 8. That's a document that appeared at first glance to implement major points of constitutional arrangement agreed in Aburi. Now this is very tricky. They brought out a paper saying, this is what we're going to do. When you look at it, you think, oh, they're going to agree, they're going to implement Aburi Accord. But it is not a fiscal arrangement. The Decree 8, like Aburi, vested the legislature and executive powers of the Supreme Council. And what it did do, decisions was made, vital matters could be taken only by agreement with all military governors. But however, it gives autonomy. The federal government have the final say of what they did or who did what, which is against what Aburi said. Aburi said we'll all have to agree as a way of removing suspicion. But if you then bring out a decree saying the federal government have the right to veto and decide what to do, you're no longer going in the spirit of Aburi. Remember, there's tension in the country. So, what then happened is this. 4 months after the Aburi, they printed a new version, and it's very, very clever. Skillfully, they worded that, and it looks harmless indeed when you look at it, but you have to look at the main paragraph. It says, one of the extra clauses was that the fact that the regional governors could not exercise their powers, right? If you're Ojukwu, you're not allowed to exercise your power so as to impede the prejudice, the authority of the federation. Translated, it means Ojukwu cannot do anything without the prior consent of Gowon in the central government, and anything that the central government feels is going to undermine them, they will not allow it to go through. So if Ojukwu wants to feed his people and the central government says, I'm not going to allow you, then it will not go through. So they'll be dictating to the East, which is not what agreement was reached at Aburi. So the next one, so Gowon decided precisely what he would impede. So Gowon is the one who decides what would impede or what would prejudice the authority. It's like a rule you made, you haven't decided what is actually inside it. But you say, I have every right to change this particular rule. But you don't tell us what the rules are. Okay. Another section of the Decree 8, which was brought out after Ojukwu decided to collect tax from his region. And the federal government, Decree 8, said to take over the authority of the regional government, which was endangering the continuance of the federal government. And again, the creation was, the criteria was again apparently Lagos. So there's another part of this new clause, which Gowon issued unilaterally, that within it, the central government have the right to take over any region if they deem that they're going away from the dictates of the center. It's like imposing a dictatorship, and which they have not decided at Aburi. The next one, most menacing of all, the Eastern Eyes. And this is important. The important thing here was a paragraph under which a state of emergency. Now, this is very critical. Remember, Tafawa Balewa government used state of emergency in the Middle Belt, state of emergency in the Western region, just to bring the army and start shooting and killing people and causing all sorts of chaos. You have Wild Wild West as a result of state of emergency. Now, Gowon is bringing that within this Decree 8, the government in Lagos has the right to declare the state of emergency, right, on any region when, with the agreement of only 3 of the military governors. Why only 3? Remember, there were 4: Northern, Western, Midwest, and East. So you don't no longer need concurrence of all the people. You can only now use only 3. So what that means, you're isolating the East. So if they go it alone, 3 of you will gang up and declare state of emergency. So that is what made the East very, very suspicious. You have now brought in a new decree without concurrence, without discussion, and saying 3 governors, if they agree, to go ahead. Okay? And the other 3 governors, they are not independent. The governor in the West has northern soldiers camped in his country. The Midwest hasn't got enough firepower. So whatever the center says, Gowon says will go, because the others cannot say no. So Ojukwu was being isolated. So Ojukwu saw this as being specifically anti-East. So that decree was not saying anything to alleviate the suffering, the burden of refugee, the rehabilitation program, but everything was against the East. So he therefore rejected the decree. So therefore, there was growing unpopularity of Gowon's regime, okay, is now causing the southern part of Nigeria to actually become one, because they're looking at him and said, what is going on here? We went to Aburi, and you're given a new order without any instruction to anybody beforehand. So now, Q, the Western region, the Yoruba people, there was growing resentment over the failure, first of all, to remove the northern troops who are sitting in Ibadan, who are garrisons in Lagos, Ikeja. So they wanted them returned to the north, because that's what Aburi said. But Gowon wasn't budging, okay, because that's what was stated. So Chief Awolowo led the actual protest. Following his tradition, so it's made among it, as you know, Chief Awolowo was locked up in prison. They accused him of sedition. under Belewa's government. He was released by Agi Irensi, but Gowon, when Agi Irensi was killed, the day Awolowo was going to be released, Gowon jumped in and released him. So the Yoruba think that Gowon released Awolowo. So Awolowo is now at large in the West and is following what is going on. So he mentioned to the leaders of thought in the West, these are the powerful people in the Western region, Yoruba leaders of thought. They all met in Ibadan. And he said it's in his considered opinion that some of the demands from the East are actually, they're not altogether perfect, but he said they're excessive. Within the context of the Nigerian Union, most of such demands are not only well-founded, he thinks they're well-founded, but are designed for smooth and healthy association within the various nations units in Nigeria. What are we saying, in effect, that most of what the Eastern region are demanding are reasonable, and they are designed to allow them to cohabit with the rest of Nigeria. So Chief Awolowo, who has been to the East to see Ojukwu, and as a witness, and he was the one who would understand the feelings in the East, because if you've been there, as one of the music was playing, Onwuzuruwe, it was played, everybody was a big town, because you have a relative who went to the North who may not have returned, some from Lagos who didn't make it, some who maybe have wounds. So you are constantly reminded of the pressure that the Eastern region were under. So there was a lot of sympathy for the refugee to go. Awolowo, who went to the East to feel the pain of the East and understand their concerns and the anxiety over the Aburi Accord not being implemented. So to cut a long story not so short, Gowon said, Awolowo said, if the East decided to pull away by one reason or the other, by omission or commission, the West will have no choice but also consider pulling out of the Federation. So this rattled Gowon, because he feels that if the East pull away, the West pull away, then Nigeria more or less is finished. And the Northerners, they will have a real job if they're going to attack the East, going it alone. Remember, Nigeria is on a tripod, North, East, and West. So if the North can get the West on their side, then they can bully the East. Likewise, if the East and West could come together, this handshake across the bridge, this River Niger, this handshake across River Niger, the North cannot dictate too much to those two together. So Gowon has a decision to make. Okay, so this is how he solved his problem. Remember that the North and the West were somewhat in collusion in this tripod thing, because the Obas of Yoruba land in October 66, they went up to the North to thank the Emirs for not killing the Yorubas. Let me just explain that. Up in the North, there were Yoruba people and Eastern people. There were Westerners and Easterners. They were all in the North. The Northern pogrom, they planned to just get rid of the Igbos. Sometimes when the Igbos escape from their house and they run into the Yoruba, if you're lucky, the Yoruba person can help you. If you're a real friend. If you're real enemies, they say they're not going to help you or they chase you out. So the Yorubas were large extent spared. Remember I said last time, you can tell if somebody is Yoruba, most of them have tribal marking. If they're Hausa, you also have tribal marking, but the Igbos didn't have so much tribal marking. So you can identify in that sense. So the Obas of Yoruba land, the chiefs and elders, they went up to the North and thanked the Emirs for sparing the Yorubas. So that's number one. Now, so they're beginning to work together to make sure their people are not, exposed to killings. But they have military camped in Ibadan and in Lagos, ready to pounce. These are the same military that was helping Tafawa Balewa's military. I mean, Tafawa Balewa's First Republic in suppressing the West because of the wild West, all the commotion that were going west. So I'm just saying that as by the way. Awolowo, therefore, Gowon and Awolowo need to work together with the Obas of the West to make sure the Yoruba people are safeguarded. So what then happened was that it was in late April. Remember, we started this call from January 1967. We're now in April. So Awolowo went and said that if the East pulled out, once again, the West will pull out. So this was a big, big problem for Gowon and the Northern and the those who are plotting and planning how to dominate Nigeria. So what the Northerners did then, because they can sense the feeling in the East, they can also sense the feeling in the West. So they have to find a way of dividing them. So what they did, the Northerners suddenly changed their mind and said that they will now welcome any plan to divide the North into more states. That's a master coup. If you say you're going to now make the North, allow it to be divided in many states, this is exactly what Awolowo was looking for, because the North was like a monolith, one block. If you have a way of dividing them so they have different states, that will weaken them to allow someone like Awolowo, the East, to operate. The North has always refused dividing the North. So the leaders in the North came up with this idea. Okay? They were before that irrevocably committed. They were not allowing any sense of talking about Middle Belt or Far North or whatever. So for the first time, they decided they're now committed to creation of states. I don't know if anybody really appreciates the significance of this. So with that, that is the carrot that Gowon needs to weaken the growing link between Awolowo and Ojukwu. Okay? Because Awolowo loves to hear that the North could be divided into states. And the Northerners said this like carte blanche. North should be irrevocably committed to the creation of states, whether or not they are created elsewhere. Let me repeat that. They don't mind the northern region being divided into various states, and that is whether or not other states in other regions are divided into states anyway, because one of these states is bigger than the East put together anyway, if they divided them. So, on the basis of the stability of the North, also an entire federation to urge the federal government to take immediate steps to set in motion the machinery for the creation of these states. So we are now around, I think, April 1967. So the Northerners suddenly decided, we don't mind states being created, by the way, and you can create them without creating states everywhere else. So Gowon picked up on this complete change of heart. He picked up on that and decided that it would be a good idea to create new states. So Gowon now started talking about new state creation. This appealed or appeased Awolowo's sentiment. On top of it, Gowon approached Awolowo and made him the Commissioner for Finance and the Deputy Chairman of the Supreme Council in this new government, where he's bringing some civilians into government. So it's like a military, civilian, if you like, government. but no one from the east, of course. So you have in the federal government, Gowon bringing Awolowo in, and then he went and found Chief Nahor, who was in prison with Awolowo. He's also been released. Chief Nahor is from it's a minority tribe from the Middle West. So he brought him into the government. He brought in Joseph Taka, who is the mid-belt, actually, TV's, it's not the core north. So what Gowon did there was to widen and weaken the broad base in the north by pulling in, bribing Awolowo with the finance ministry job and chairman of this government, so that Awolowo is no longer going to go close to the east. He's divided them away from the east. In so doing, he isolated the east and pulled the government of Nigeria into one. So you have the north with the military and the western part now singing from the same hymn sheet. So that isolated the Ojukwu and the east. Having done that, he would then turn to the east. So let me go a little bit quicker. So what then happened is that when Ojukwu decided from the 1st of April to collect the revenue for survival edict and pay to people in this region who are suffering, need rehabilitation, what Gowon did was to cause an economic blockade in the east. He stopped the postal service. He did the postal orders, the cables, the telephone, the telex. So there's no form of communication. Why? Because it all goes through Lagos. So you can't communicate outside eastern Nigeria to other countries. So he cut that off. He brought the boat and is sure nobody should sail into the east. So he blockaded. So the east is now being cut off and the war hasn't even started. And as I mentioned in some of the talks, things like salt started becoming a scarce commodity because you're not importing anything. So an Ojukwu who's collecting tax to help rehabilitate his people, now finding there are no boats coming in and you can't phone outside to complain to anybody. And then on top of it, the planes coming into the east were also cut off. You're not allowed to fly in. Nigerian Airways was also banned from flying to the east. So you're already being surrounded and cut off. So Ojukwu then had another press conference with Reuters. And he said, I think we are now rolling downhill. Yeah? So he said it would take a great deal to halt the momentum. We are very close. Very, very close. What that means is that if you're now going to cause an economic blockade in the east, remember what Ojukwu said, there are two ways of killing somebody. You put a gun and shoot them, or you can starve them to death, which is in a way prophetic, because that's exactly what Nigeria used. They used starvation as a weapon of war. He's blockaded these people already, cut them off from international contact, and the war hasn't even started. So Ojukwu was saying, if they invade us or blockade us, we will succeed. It's like Gowon is taking, each time Ojukwu says something, Gowon tightens the noose and try to push him towards secession. It's like he's being pushed away from Nigeria. But Gowon at the same time is securing the western part to support him in this coming war. Okay? Someone would ask what's happened to the Midwest. Well, Midwest said they were going to be neutral. Ejo was neutral. Ejo is the military governor of the Midwest. He wasn't getting involved. He wanted his zone to be neutral. So, we're now May 20th. So, what then happened is that there were still people, just as Ojukwu said, we're now very close. They were pulling apart. So, last-ditch effort. To be fair, this time it was the National Conciliation Committee, headed by the new Federal Chief Justice, Sir Adetukumbo Ademola, is a Yoruba person, and then including Awolowo. They visited to Ojukwu for the last time, the 7th of May, 1967. Once again, they listened to Ojukwu's views, they listened to the problems they're having, they accepted all his demands, and called on the federal government to implement these demands. These demands included implementation of what was agreed in Aburi, okay, and also the troops back to their regions of origin, and to call off the economic sanction. Okay, so the people who visited Ojukwu went back to Gowon and said, these people are being tortured unnecessarily. You need to call off all the sanctions. They don't make sense. So on the 20th of May, Gowon accepted all the recommendations, but it was another illusory hope. He said he's agreed to now de-escalate, but he announced that the ban on Nigerian Airways flights to the east was lifted, although with other sanctions. Yeah. However, the director of Nigerian Airways said privately, no one had told him, given an order to resume flights, so he wasn't going to carry that out either. So Gowon will say one thing, but behind, something else was going on. So if he lifted the order, he just tell the director of Nigerian Airways to start flying to the east straight away, but he didn't do that. Now, the troops moving away from the east was part of Aburi Accord. Colonel Katsina, who was, of course, now he used to be the governor of the northern region. He was made the chief of staff when Gowon became the commander-in-chief, as he made himself. So Katsina then flew from Kaduna to Ibadan and informed the troops that they were going away from Ibadan. What did he do? He moved them to Ilorin. Ilorin, as you know, is in Kwara State now, but it's really next door to Ibadan. Yeah, Ilorin is on the same road, a throwing stone away from the border between west and north, and within the snap of the moment, they can return back to Lagos and to Ibadan. Yeah, so although the troops are moved away from the west, they're not too far away. If they need it, they can return immediately and start doing whatever it is they want to do. Okay, so what's happening in the east? Well, the clamor in the east, most people, if you listen to that song, Omuzuruwa, they're still mourning, they're still feeling rejected. So they're asking Ojukwu, please pull us out. We've had enough. We can't go on like this. So the clamor for Ojukwu to become too hard for him to bear. So on the 26th of May, 1967, he called over 300 members of Constituent Assembly of Chiefs and Elders. Yeah, 335 of them. They all gathered in to find out, what do we need to do now? If we leave things as they are, we have to answer to the dictates, for one, and they will be telling us what to do for the rest of our lives. If we assert our autonomy, it's going to be tough, because there's going to be a lot of hardship. So Ojukwu gave them all the options that if they assert their autonomy and declare self-independent, it's going to be hard going. But that's the only way, if you like, to consider surviving. So this is really where we are. So you've seen all the steps that was taken after Aburi to now 26th of May, when these people gathered to decide the fate of the people in the East, whether to continue in Nigeria or to find a way out and start afresh. These people are the ones that built Nigeria. They've abandoned their precious goods and so on. Now they run back to the East and no one is listening to them. So is very, very critical, the next step. So when they met on the 26th, it was a 2-day conference. They deliberated, and as I said in the previous talks, the voting was unanimous, and it's from every nook and cranny of the eastern region. No one was left out. Whichever tribe you are, whichever region, province, you were well represented. So it was a unanimous decision on the 27th to pull out eastern region and make it a sovereign state called Biafra. So they gave Ojukwu the mandate. As soon as that meeting ended, Gowon declared the state of emergency. So they have given Ojukwu the mandate. Ojukwu didn't declare immediately. What happened was Gowon decided to push the button. On the 27th, on the same day, he came an emergency announcement. There will now be an emergency. I've taken over. There's going to be there's a state of emergency. I've declared. So let me just try and put this. It's not my own words. Okay. So mandate was given to Ojukwu. It's not necessarily for secession, but at the earliest practicable date, to declare Eastern region a sovereign state. Okay. So Gowon decided to declare a state of emergency on the same day, simultaneously published a decree dividing Nigeria into 12 new states. Now, he has an option about the north, dividing it because it's so big, but in the east, he divided a tiny place into 3 places. Okay? And there was no consultation of the people who live in those places. There was no boundary that you know of. He just carved places up. To make the matter worse, to really, really provoke the Easterners. Okay, so there were tiny states, 3 tiny states. Each of them, if you left them on their own, they're isolated. And the East Central State, which he called, is where he joined a dot and said this is now where the Easterners of the Igbo origin are going to be. He removed Port Harcourt away from them, which is an Igbo state, and made it the capital of River State. As I said before, Port Harcourt, in effect, and most people will know, used to be an Owerri province, was built by both the Igbos and the riverine people. So to suddenly come and carve it away from the Igbo people, their houses there, some of them have abandoned everything, and some have the housing. So it was very, very difficult. So the government, in the same broadcast, okay, he announced the imposition of a blockade. He reimposed the blockade. So what Gowon had done there is like an open challenge. Ojukwu, you've now been given a mandate, but I dare you to secede. Who would have thought in Aburi we discussed no use of force? There should be unanimity when we decide things. In other words, you consult people before you divide them into states. None of this. Gowon was deliberately rolling out program after program of challenge. And the world turned around and said Ojukwu was rebelling. You see, it was twisted round. So it was like an open challenge. You can't provoke anyone more than Gowon provoked the East. Yeah? So I dare you people to do your worst. I want you to succeed. Yeah? So that is really where we are. So for the short period, so this is what Gowon said. Decree 8, he said, has been abrogated. Decree 8 has some elements of Aburi. He cancelled it. And he says it's now going to take full powers, an emergency declaration for the short period, quote unquote, for the short period necessary to carry out the measures which are now urgently required. What exactly is urgently required now? Yeah, people have had a meeting about how they're going to carry on associating with a part of the country. You said now as a state of emergency, you're going to come in and do what you like with your army, and you dare them to secede. So therefore, on the 30th of May, in the early hours, Ojukwu called diplomats, journalists to the State House, Enugu, okay, to hear what Ojukwu has to say following the meeting. This is, of course, Declaration of Independence of Biafra. And I'm going to read it out in full because it's a significant day for every Biafran. So you understand the setup from Aburi, all the goings on, all the, if you like, bad faith, pushing the Easterners instead of helping to, them to overcome the wound and the suffering and the pain. And this music, Onwuzurua, was playing. They have so much pain. They have been rejected in the country they helped to build. And now you say to them, I dare you. I've divided you now into three. Okay? I didn't ask you where the boundaries are. I'm just going to say from now on, your river states, your cross river state, your East Central state. So Ojukwu then called all this press, and this is what he said. Fellow countrymen and women, you, the people of Eastern region, Nigeria, conscious of the supreme authority of Almighty God over all mankind, for your duty to yourselves and posterity, aware that you have that you can no longer be protected in your lives and in your property by any government based outside Eastern Nigeria. Believing that you are born free and have certain inalienable rights which can best be preserved by yourselves. Unwilling to be unfree partners in any association of a political or economic nature, rejecting the authority of any person or persons other than the military government of Eastern Nigeria to make any imposition of whatsoever kind or nature upon you, determined to dissolve all political and other ties between you and the former Federal Republic of Nigeria, prepare to enter into such associations, treaty, or alliance with any sovereign state within the former Federal Republic of Nigeria and elsewhere on such terms and conditions as best to subserve your common good, affirming your trust and confidence in me, having mandated me to proclaim on your behalf and in your name that Eastern Nigeria be a sovereign independent republic. Now, therefore, I, Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, military governor of Eastern Nigeria, by virtue of the authority and pursuant to the principles recited above, do hereby solemnly proclaim that the territory and region known as and called Eastern Nigeria, together with their continental shelf and territorial waters, shall henceforth be an independent sovereign state of the name and title the Republic Biafra. So there you have it. Biafra came into existence, and it's all about security of the people. Thank you.
All right. Brilliant.
So, Mazi,
thank
how
you.
many more minutes have I got?
I think we are over the minute.
Mazi,
yes, but I think you're wrapped up in time with the declaration.
are you with me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, all right.
Mazi, are you still there?
Let me unmute myself. Just a second. Yes, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, we have declared Biafra.
Yes.
It's come into existence.
Yes, and we are going to declare.
Right.
We are going to declare it again for the second time.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mazi.
And
we're going to leave it here for today. The time is yes, and then of course I don't know what you're gonna be touching on next week on part 6.
Okay, I'll talk about what happened after the war was declared.
All right.
Because the next step is the war, isn't it? When the war starts.
All right.
Okay. So grateful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Mazi. Thank you very much. You don't know, this means a lot to us. We are unlocking, many years of history, and that indeed counts for all Biafrans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. So
all right.
There was euphoria. Or declared. Everybody was so pleased. You can now start afresh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And of course, I will fulfill your last request again, which is the second song. I'm sure you will listen on the background. Thank you very much, Mazi.
So we have a very, very, very special guest with us today, Dr. Uju Anya. And she is a professor at Carnegie Mellon University in applied linguistics.
Yeah.
And so welcome. So I had 2 more questions and I want to open it up. Has this experience changed the way, because like you said, you kind of go in, you use Twitter, you kind of almost like prepare, like you said, to teach when you go in there. Has this experience changed the way you're looking at engaging in social media, or do you intend to continue to engage in the way you have?
So even in this, my most intense moment on social media, fundamentally, more than I am anything else in this world, more than I am a mother, more than I am a researcher, more than I am a sister, a community member, I am a teacher. And if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to teach.
Right.
And even in that very intense moment of profound pain and my outburst, my emotional outburst of deep, deep pain, I was teaching. I followed up explaining that there was a genocide against the Biafra people.
Right.
Right. Who were trying, the Igbo people who were trying to form an independent nation of Biafra. They wanted to be separate from the country that the British Empire had imposed on us, which was this country of Nigeria, where they kind of took a bunch of independent nations who don't have anything to do with each other, don't even speak each other's language, don't relate. Many of them were even enemies and warring at the time, smushed them all together and drew these arbitrary lines around them. And call them countries and name those countries.
Right.
And then said, now y'all get along and do a country for us and be a union for us. And then go through, contentious, bloody independence processes that never really yield any real independence. You're still part of a commonwealth afterwards.
True.
And you have the eternal meddling in your affairs and the eternal extraction of your resources. And the eternal fomenting of divisiveness and infighting in order to be able to control you. This is what an oppressor does, a colonizer does. These are, tactics and strategies of dominance.
Right.
We were subjected to that as a larger unit of Nigeria. And then when the Igbo people said, we want our own thing, let's go and do that. Well, it so happened to be that the territory that this new country of Biafra was going to be in included very, very rich oil reserves. And the British were not going to let go of that.
Wow.
And the people that they had put in power, their puppet Nigerian governments weren't going to do that either because they needed it for the Nigerian project.
Right.
And Britain needed it for its own interests and uses. So Great Britain got directly involved in this civil war and in the war for independence and decided that they would do everything to make sure that Biafra did not go.
Wow.
And this everything meant directly funding genocide of the people of Biafra. This is what happened. This is the historical record. I'm not saying anything that's in doubt or in question, right?
Yeah.
Even when it was happening during this period of 1967 to 1970, the BBC themselves were producing documentaries decrying it, covering all the protests that were happening in Great Britain.
This is recent.
Yeah, this is very recent. My sister, for example, is turning 60 this month. And my sister was alive at that time. She was like 5, 6.
Right.
My other brother was alive at the time, and my second brother was in my mother's belly. She was pregnant during this time, running from village to village to escape the bombs that they were throwing at villagers. So when we tell you that 3 million people, some people have said up to 5 million, 6 million, or some people quote low. So the sort of average agreed upon number that you really cannot contest is about 3 million. When you think of a Holocaust,
right,
this is a Holocaust.
Absolutely.
Now, the Holocaust that we typically were most familiar with is the most famous one against the Jewish people.
Yes.
Where they, 6 million of them were massacred.
Absolutely.
So at the most sort of conservative estimation, they did half of us.
Right.
Half that number. Civilians. These are non-combatants. And more than 1 million children alone starved.
Wow.
The British paid for that. And Queen Elizabeth II was ruler. She was monarch at that time. This was the government that she was supervising. Now, I don't buy this notion that she was just a statue, if you will.
I was going to ask you that question.
Or a decorative plant.
Right.
Or, some kind of, tchotchke sitting on the shelf.
Right.
This was a ruler. This was someone, the very crown that she had on her head, signifying the fact that she's a monarch, was made from plunder.
Right.
Diamonds, blood diamonds.
Absolutely.
So the throne that she's sitting on is a throne of blood. So you cannot say that she was just this little old lady or this figurehead that really had nothing to do with anything, and it was just the British government that were making their deals and, governing however they would, without relating it directly to her, because she directly benefited her very position as a monarch, the palace that she lived in, the opulence, the obscene levels of wealth that she enjoyed.
Absolutely.
Were all paid for by our blood. And I don't say this figuratively. Right. And I don't say this as something that, this long remote past, let's say, of human enslavement, which on my mother's side, she's from Trinidad, my ancestors over there were enslaved by the British. I'm talking about recent living memory of people still alive today. Her money, her government funded our slaughter. And people expected me to be calm or to be, I don't know what they expected.
Right.
When the person who literally paid money for bombs and guns and military supplies to come and massacre your people is dying. Right. You're not supposed to dance. What's the reaction to that?
I remember when we found out that Osama bin Laden was killed, and Americans celebrated, right? Because they held him responsible for 9/11, which just passed, and that terror that occurred, and those 3,000 or so people that died.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when it's our terror, when it's our pain, when it's our loss as Black and brown people, and particularly when we express it in a way that challenges, white supremacy, the white supremacy dominant narrative, and this, kind of almost like Disneying idea that people had of a queen, then all of a sudden it's like we're always told to be civil, to be calm, to be peaceful as Black and brown people. And so, but when it's somebody that you feel harmed America, you can dance, you can celebrate, you can take out your flags, and that's held up. You can have lynchings were celebratory things in the history of the United States of America, where they would to have a parade and party and
take children.
Question before we close out, because I saw in the wake of Queen Elizabeth's passing and this conversation around colonialism, a call for reparations, right? I think Jamaicans were saying like, instead of having more, like we need reparations.
Absolutely.
You spoke, you taught us about this very recent history around Biafra. Is there a movement or calls for some type of reparation? Because, we've seen reparations happen with the Holocaust of Jewish people, deservedly so. You mentioned, I'm part of the National African Americans Reparation Commission that was started by Dr. Ron Daniels.
Absolutely. First of all, the Queen never once apologized. She never once opened her mouth to say sorry. Everybody, the history records know what happened and what was done in her name and for her crown. Not just to the people of Biafra, but you talked about the Kenyans, the Indians, the indigenous people, right? Native Americans. So it's just never once have they taken responsibility and just said sorry. So what I am advocating for, and what a lot of Igbo people are advocating for, number one is to just recognize what you did and say sorry. And then we can move on to conversations about what does reparations look like. It could look like leaving the oil alone.
Right.
It could look like, actual payments and repayments, of the compensating the 3 million lives that were lost.
Right.
I don't know. We haven't even gotten that far yet because we can't even get them to admit the shit they did.
Wow. Man.
And how does that feel as a language professor to know? It's so, it could all be so simple.
Yeah.
And then just that refusal.
They continue to dehumanize us. That's what it feels like. We are not even human enough to them to sit down with them as equals and say, this is what you did to us. And they recognize it and say, yes, this is what we did. And we're sorry. Even though it's open record, the fact that they never open their mouth and sit down with us and say it shows that they continue to view us as less than and undeserving of the common acknowledgement of our humanity and our dignity to say, yes, we harmed you and we're sorry.
Powerful way to end,
and that's why we call it This Week in White Supremacy.
Absolutely,
yes. This is a perfect synopsis of the theme of this show.
And the article we're going to share as our white pages is a recent article. Dr. Anya just wrote "Critical Race Pedagogy for More Effective and Inclusive World Language Teaching." Asking folks to, you said you liberated this article from behind.
I did. It was behind a paywall, and I used money from my research funds to pay the publisher to not put a paywall on it, because I believe that the teachers that I work for and I write for, who benefit from my work and who I also benefit from the work they're doing because they provide me with material for scholarship and investigation. I believe that they should have free access to the results of the work I do for them and with them.
Well, we greatly appreciate you doing that and appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. I know you've been kind of bombarded with media requests that you would take the time to come and sit with us and be so passionate, so vulnerable, and so open about this journey. And we're thankful to have this relationship with you now and looking forward to continue to support the incredible work that you're doing at Carnegie Mellon University.
Thank you.
And onwards and upwards.
I'm in the Modern Languages Department in the Second Language Acquisition Program.
Absolutely. All right. Any closing thoughts? And I know we got some announcements. Treble?
I just want to say I am extremely grateful for you sitting down and talking with us, because you taught me a lot just by listening to everything that you were saying. And you provided not only us, but our viewers with the context that is needed to understand why there's a mixed reaction to the death of the Queen. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, for hosting me. And thank you for, being my entryway into Black Pittsburgh, where
right,
I
man.
want to dwell.
Oh, that means two things.
Let's get it.
Come on, let's go.
That means
Let's
two
go.
things. BlackPittsburgh.com.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know it's a lot, so I really appreciate you
Thank you.
trusting us, and thank you so much to your partner as well. Just love y'all.
I took the time to come here, and I do get a lot of requests, but because you are Black people working for us, and I want to be a part of this community and what you're doing. So thank you for having me here.
So
We
much.
have to come to the conclusion that there are no extenuating circumstances. You have been found guilty on all charges. Is there something you could tell the court before pronouncement of your sentence?
All we want is freedom. That's all we want. Freedom. Freedom for children to learn. Freedom for men to work. For mothers to love. For a nation to grow. That's all we want. Equality. For everyone. You see, I am just one of many. A foot soldier. There will be many, many more to follow. So, there is no court of law, no police force, no army that will stop the tide of revolution from turning. There is no punishment that you can lay out in this court. No law your government can pass that will kill the will of the people. Because we will fight. We will continue to fight until all our people are free. And maybe we can even free you from yourselves. So you can hate us, degrade us, torture us, and kill us. But we will fight. And we will be free. One day, we will be free. Amanda! Amanda! Solomon Kalushi Mashlango. You are hereby sentenced to death. You will be taken to Pretoria Central Prison on a date to be set, and you will be hanged by your neck until you die.
Therefore, the only election that makes sense in our place right now in Biafra land is a referendum. When we achieve a referendum, then all these nice things that people like Obi is talking about, how he's going to revive the economy and how he's going to put people to work, those are beautiful things to say. But for you to be able to implement those things, you have to have a just society to be able to do that. You have to be able to have people that are ready to receive the opportunity and want to participate to make their life better. You don't have that right now. What is Peter Obi going to do with millions of Aramajiris? How is he going to control the military? How is he going to control all the terrorist groups from the north? The banditries, Mieti Allah, Fulani Herdsmen, that are the fourth most deadliest terrorist group in the world by Global Watch on terrorism. And Saru, Al-Shabaab, How is an Igbo president going to control these terrorist groups? How is that going to happen? So the first thing is to secure our life first, before anything else. And the only way to do that is through a referendum. You have to be alive to participate in an election. Right now, our struggle has gone beyond economies. It's gone beyond a way of life. We are fighting for self-preservation at this time. Self-preservation. We're fighting to stay alive. And every Biafran should be able to see that. If you do not see that, it's either you're nonchalant, you don't care, or you're desperately wicked. One or the other. There is no other explanation. Thank you.
Biafra worldwide phone call campaign alert continues. BBC, a propaganda machine and racist media set up by the Great Britain to oppress the oppressed people of Biafra. BBC, your media war propaganda of 1967 that led to the genocide of over 3.5 million Biafrans, men, women, and children, did not stop us. Do you know why? Because we are the sons and daughters of the great lion from the tribe of Biafra. Our minds are made up. Your shenanigans, antics, and fake gutter media will not stop us either. We must and shall restore Biafra. Biafra worldwide phone call campaign alert continue. Now pay close attention. Be polite when you call BBC and use the following prompt when you call. Hello, my name is. You tell them your name. I am calling to ask about BBC policy of propaganda against the victims of genocide. Since you are obsessed with telling lies about Biafrans, here are 5 more questions to consider. Now, this is the question to ask BBC. We are witnesses to BBC racist coverage of terrorism, implying that black Africans' lives don't matter. Yet the same BBC rallies the whole world at the slightest terrorist incident in the United Kingdom. Here is the second question. But when it comes to Nigeria, BBC not only hides terrorist killings, but they slander the victims and survivors of terrorism and genocide. The third one. When will the grand patrons of lies and hypocrisy, the BBC Fake News Network, make a documentary about the daily slaughtering of Nigerians by Fulani terrorists and the government of Nigeria, whom you protect so that London may plunder Biafran's resources? The fourth question. Is the oil and gas of Biafra the reason that BBC is obsessed and terrified by the agitation for freedom by the victims of 400 years of British colonial thievery and crimes against humanity? And the fifth one, we call on the good people of the world to ask BBC and UK government why it aids and abates the genocide in Nigeria by spreading lies, propaganda, and disinformation against Biafran freedom fighters. BBC, we know that you are United Kingdom government agents of imperialism with no modicum of shame. Take down your wicked fake documentary against the victims of genocide and stop your sadistic meddling in the lives of Black Africans. Now pay close attention. This is the time to call BBC. You can call them 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Biafran time. Date 4th of July to 30th of September 2022. Now grab your pen and paper and pay close attention. You can call BBC switchboard on this number +44 2087 438,000. I repeat, +44 208 743 8000, or you can tweet at BBC News. You can also call BBC Customer Service +44 3700 100 222. I repeat, +44 3700 100 222. Or you can also tweet at BBC Press. I have not finished. You can also call BBC Studios Limited +44 208 433 2000. I repeat, +44 208 433 2000. You can also email BBC News Channels at bbc.co.uk. BBC, we shall vanquish. BBC, do you know why? Because we are Biafrans. Radio Biafra, we saturate the whole of Biafra land. Wherever you are, just touch the dial 102.1 FM. Olu, Owerri, Enugu, Anambra, Abakaliki, Nsukka, Asaba, and many more. Radio Biafra, we got you covered. Radio Biafra, the first and the last.
Let the whole wide world know Biafra is our home.
A great noise will be coming from a far distance. It is a march, another march, a great march of the people, by the people, and for the people. The voice of the people must be heard when their feet begins to shake the earth. In the month of October 2022, the Biafra 1 million march in UK. We call it the March for Justice, for Love, and for Truth. The indigenous people of Biafra, United Kingdom family, invite all Biafrans, friends of Biafra, lovers of freedom, justice and fairness to the mega 2-day 1 million march in Liverpool and London on Sunday, October 16th and Monday, October 17th, 2022, respectively. 16th October for Liverpool at Anfield, the home ground of Liverpool Football Club. Of course, the team our leader Chinedu supports. A history must be made in Liverpool because it will be the prelude to the top-flight English Premiership match between Liverpool FC and Manchester City. On 17th October 2022, being the next day, the people will march in the hearts of London, from Trafalgar Square to number 10 Downing Street, then to the Commonwealth Office and Parliament Building. We shall send the strongest ever message about Biafra restoration and the demand for Ahmadike's immediate and unconditional release from the Nigeria's DSS illegal detention. Come, lend your voice to these clarion calls.
Union, churches, villages, kindreds, Ndiamala, and all paternal and maternal homes to beg hear our voice and hear our cry in this request to please do the needful now before it is too late. We ask all the people involved to beg, try and bury all the corpses we scatter all over Biafra land. For this one, they should say it they bring us spiritual and physical problem, and now we they suffer we no know. When you know the root cause of the sickness, the treatment now don't dey easy. I beg my people.
Now we don't sabi the cause of the sickness. IPOB don't come with the solution.
The research wey you do show say some dead body don dey up to 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and the death count na human being we go bury or na firewood. Everybody wey this one concern, we IPOB dey beg una, abeg make una do something no, because anybody when person start the journey, when he never reach the destination, in heart no go come down. As we never bury our people, our heart never come down. All the obnoxious high burial demands, competitions, effigy from churches, Ndiamala, Omona, in-laws, maternal and paternal homes, when they cause this delay and wahala for our people, I beg, make una try do something. Now all these things they cause, then they build mortuary, like said in they build
joint,
church, filling station everywhere for Biafra land. I beg, mortuary, na factory, na children's amusement park. No. A stitch in time saves 9. With the call therefore, say make everybody try for 3 days when your person kaput, make una bury am. After, una go do the ceremony, una go do the effigy, we follow am.
Churches, traditional rulers, and other people that matters, I beg, make una chook mouth and chook eye and help us for this matter.
Because the person when they pursue cow, they call a name. If you no hold the medicine, he go hold the thing when they dose the cow. Now we they call una. And the one una talk, he go stand. I beg my people, make we comot this danger, comot our people from bondage. If una no do something, we the indigenous people of Biafra, under Nnamdi Kanu, no go waste time to do the needful so as to remove the yoke and our people from bondage. And soonest we go begin the closure of many mortuaries for Biafra land. The only dead body when we want make it there for mortuary, now the only one
we get cases with them they treat.
And after they don't finish the whole thing, settle everything, make them bury them. Mortuary no be factory, mortuary no be industry, mortuary no be amusement park again, no be recreational center, no be children's park. Remember, person wey sell land burying dead body don't bury 2 corpses. Sure, you never know. Now we be the owners of the land, and we don't tell you now the time to cleanse our land. Now make una do the needful. Our land go dey calm and our ancestors go happy wherever them dey.
Now the indigenous people of Biafra under Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, they bring una this message. Please, our heart they bleed to save our people. Ona bokoko wanu ya gakwuru kwosisi ọkọwakwanụ mmadụ ya gakwuru mmadụ ibe ya n'ihi na onye a na-achụ ehi na akpọpụ ma o ji ọgwụ ya o ji nri ya ebe nwata na-ebe akwa na-atụ aka ma isi nne ya nọrọ ya ke nne ya ga-anọrịrị ya ọkụkọ sị na ihe na-esi aṅụ mmiri lewe anya n'elu na ọ bụ ebe ọnwụ na-egbu ya na-esi abịa. Biko nụ anyị ji ohere a anyị onwe anyị bụ ụmụafọ Biafra, indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB na aha mkpimkpi n'okpuru onye ndu anyị bụ Mazi Nnamdi Kanu dị nsọ na-arịọ ndị eze ndị ụka dị iche iche, ndị ọha obodo dị iche iche, ndị ụmụnne nna, ndị ụmụnne nne, nọsekwa nọsịrị ka ha biko nyere anyị aka dịka ugwu ka anyị buru ebele. Nchọnchọ anyị mere gosiri na ozu ndị a niile bụ nke ndị anyị nọ na mọchụarị anyị na-elibeghị so na-akele anyị ụkwụ na-epile anyị aja na garị. Biko ka anyị mara na ihe anyị ga-eme lipụ ozu ndị a, hapụkwa na ihe ndị ọzọ sochiri ya. Anyị lipụchi ozu ndị a nwanne, anyị abịa n'ubi emeghakwara ama ndị sochiri ya. Anyị na-arịọ unu onye ọbụla nwụrụ na were mkpụrụ ụbọchị 3 lie ya, bịa hazi ihe niile. Ihe mezikwanụrụ emezi a na-akpọ ya nwa mma. Biko ihe ndị a na-ebutere anyị nsogbu rue na a ga-eji mọchụarị na-akpa anyị ọgba ebe niile. Ozu a dọrọ n'ihu, dọrọ n'azụ, dọrọ n'ụlọ, dọrọ n'uko, dọrọ n'usekwu, dọrọ na palọ, dọrọ na senta tebụl. Anyị na-ele ya anya. Chineke, igbe ozu mana m ụmụnna ma enwe ike iji amịrị igbe akwa ebe mkpokoro eso dị mma ma eji ihe eme ọla aka. Unu ma ihe m na-ekwu maka na nwata bee nne ya bee nna ya amara na ihe ọ ga-ebe agwụla. Anyị arịọ unu ka unu nwee ike mee ihe ugbu a mgbe chi na-efobeghị tutu mmiri asọwa ọgba. Anyị ma ihe nji na-ekwu ihe a, ụfọdụ mọchụarị nọ n'ala Biafra anyị ga-emechi ha, n'ihi na mọchụarị abụghị ebe ụmụntakịrị na-aga egwuri egwu, ọ bụghị ebe ndị okenye na-aga ezuru ike, ọ bụghị ebe a na-atatụ ihe n'ọnụ ma ọ bụkwa ngaji n'eze, ọ bụghị ebe a na-aga nlele. Ihe eji agba na ntị eji ya agba n'anya. Anyị na-arịọ unu ka unu mee ihe kwesịrị ịnụ ka ala anyị dere ji, ka obodo anyị dere ji. Unu cheta na onye ọbụla rere ala lie mmadụ o liele ozu labụ. Ihe abụọ apụle n'ahụ ka anyị nyere unu onwe anyị aka. Ihe meziri emezi a na-akpọ ya nwa mma. Anyị anaghị aba mba ma arịrịọ ka anyị na-arịọ unu. Ma ọ bụrụ na na-asịkwanụ na na-agaghị elebara ihe ndị ahụ anya n'otu ọ dị na mbụ ka ọ ga-adịgide, nwanne anyị enweghị ihe ọzọ anyị ga-eme na-abụghị ime ihe kwesịrị nụ, n'ihi na anyị onwe anyị bụ ụmụ afọ Biafra agaghị anọ ihe eri ọba anyị. Ozi a unu na-anụ ugbu a si n'aka ndị IPOB, Indigenous People of Biafra, na-abịara unu n'okpuru onye ndu anyị bụ Mazi Nnamdi Kanu dị ya nsọ. Ọ bụ ha na-akọ mgbịrịmgba maka na osisi nwa ọnwụ otu ya afọ ọ nụrụ ka ala ibe. Ndewo.
Mama, opportunity. Sister, opportunity. Oh, that's life is opportunity. Opportunity come.
We, the global family of Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, under the command and control of St. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, they use this medium, they sound this trumpet loud and clear for everybody to hear them, both the deaf and the dead. Say all these people, both big and small, in Biafra land, where they use the name of St. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB or ESN, they waka krukere, they commit one community or the other, just to grab body and other nonsense for our body in the name of thief, kidnapping, collecting of tax and rate, and different levies, even snatching of cars. Or write letter to people saying that to support ESN, then be ESN. Our hand no day at all. Our hand no follow, and they no follow for what we they do. IPOB, ESN, and St. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu na brand name. We no they carry coal at all or do rough things. My people, we no know them, we no send them, and them no follow for what we they do. This ones na another brand of Verimas in another style, in another form, and another shape for this cause. Every papa, mama, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, quick match. Advise your pikin or brother now for the leg where they waka krukere, I where they see sharply, they see am. Person where they put hand for water where crocodile they make shakara, waiting they find my brother na palaba, and they go catch am. 2 was not there for the 10. If the dragon where they fly, bitch come you. Now through get the dance, then go play for you, and you must dance that dance. And now before you don't dance finish, your name go become Obientuare. But the workers of iniquity and the hired laborers, including their sponsors, in different shape and different countries and different towns and in different places, IPOB under St. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu go play Funa Surugede, and that music una must dance and it go play and it go show. 2 words no dey for the 10. As we talk am, na so it go be. Enough of our everywhere, whether na politicians or whatever send una, we no one know. Our dragon net go hold una. Remember, the fly wey no dey follow instruction or advice, dey follow dead body enter grave. We we, the indigenous people of Biafra, under St. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, no they carry last at all. And we they blow this trumpet, because when it go begin happen, una go be thy kingdom come, while our name go be thy will be done. This message now from the Obongalicious, charismatic, indefatigable, great indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, the real owners of the land. They bring una this message. This now your opportunity to turn a new leaf.
Opportunity. Opportunity come on.
Ndị ọchọngọ n'oko nekwanufa look them okoto oguru.
Anyị onwe anyị bụ ọha ndị IPOB ma ụwa dum gburugburu bụ the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, n'okpuru onye ndu anyị bụ Mazi Nnamdi Kanu dị nsọ, ji oge a na-afọ opi ike a ka ndị dị ndụ, ndị nwụrụ anwụ na ndị ntị ike nụ ya na anyị onwe anyị bụ ndị nwe ala Biafra gbaa gburugburu na-ekwu ya ugbu a na-ekwusi ike na anyị agaghị anabatakwa kpọmkwem ime onye n'ihu itepọtị ndị ekperimọlụ mmebi iwu na ọchịcha mere ha evere oke ha na-ete anyị site n'iji ESN IPOB na aha dị asọ nke Mazi Nnamdi Kanu na-eji egwu ndị anyị chandum n'ụzọ dị iche iche, ịnụ ụtụ dị iche iche, ịtọrọ mmadụ, ịzụ ụgbọala, iji ntụmaka na-ere mmadụ aka point and kill n'ala Biafra. Mbanụnụ nke mere emekpuru ekete ọzọ emekwala. IPOB ESN Mazi Nnamdi Kanu dị nsọ bụ aha nwere agba eji aga mba, a na-enye oche pụrụ iche, abụghị ihe ndị na-amaghị nke ha riri. Ọkụkọ amaọcha ha na-adịghị mma ga-emebi na-etekwa une n'ihu ma na-erikwa ndị a na-eme ugu n'ụzọ dị iche iche. Ka m jụọ n'ụlọ, onye gbachara apriko gbaa igbe ụzọ zụtara eji eli nna ya, ọkwa onwe na-anaki ụgwọ mọchụarị ya ebe o werekwala aka ya gwuo ala ili ya. Chineke menụ n'ụlọ ebere. Ya mere papa, mama, broda, anti, ọnkụ, onye ọbụla ghe dụọ nwanyị ọdụ, n'ihi na ọkụkọ ntị ike ga-agbakwa egwu ike o, ọ gakwa n'ihe n'ofe ebe ukwu na-aga njem ọjọọ agadịghị alọta. Anyị onwe anyị bụ IPOB, anyị na-ajụ ugbu ajigbu na-eri n'ihi na ọ bụ ekpegbuo nwa nwaala apụrụ ya gafe ama nna ya. IPOB anyị anaghị ekwukwa n'efu, ọ bụghị anyị na-emechi emechi, ndị ọzọ a na-emebi emebi na-emekasị ihe, anyị gbakwana nkịtị nwanne ya bụrụ na nsogbu ga-adị, n'ihi na anyị gba nkịtị arụ abụrụzi omenala kama jishi nkụ agwụnụ ebe anwụ m taa gada ịhụ anwụ mgbuo. Dọrọ aka na ntị onye kpatara nkụ ahụhụ, ngwere gada ịbịara ya ọrụ ma ịnụghị dum nwanne ị ga na-ịnụ yọm. Anyị ga-amara ji n'ala n'ụlọ na nke na-ala n'ọtịrị, n'ihi na mpekelechi na-emebi ike, kama mpekelechi ga-emebikwa n'anya ike, a na-egbupụ ike. Ịnụnụ onye na-asọghị chi dị m n'ike ka a marụ nwanne m ga na-etanye n'isi, agaghị m asụ ụbụrụ. Anyị ekwesịgokwa ọ bụ ndị IPOB otu ezi buru nnukwu ibu n'okpuru onye ndu bụ Mazi Nnamdi Kanu dị nsọ wetara unu ozi ya.
Ma ndị mara amala n'obu mmasị na mma na obu ukwe wezikwa n'egbe ala gbamgbam n'ime ụwa nke ala. Ọ bụ gịnị?
Hashtag we are one family, indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East. Hashtag we are one family, indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East.
The type of Biafra I want is the Biafra of my ancestors, the land of the free, where people are allowed to pursue their daily endeavors without interference from any higher authority, where individual and collective autonomy of every component, ethnic, nationality within Biafra will be guaranteed, not just by law, but by virtue of our existence as dignified human beings. A Biafra that will be demilitarized, a Biafra that will be forward-looking, innovative, creative, run on clean, green energy, not reliant on gas or petrol. A Biafra where the police will not bear any arms. A Biafra where people can live and die and you will not see an armed soldier anywhere around you. A genuine republic, a land belonging to the people. We are going to cement this in the way we structure our society. A Biafra that will attract inward investments. A Biafra that will consider every necessity of life as being a human right. Not just in words, but in deed. A Biafra where there will be no strife nor rancor. A Biafra where all men and women will be equal, regardless of their religion, their sex, their creed, their orientation. A Biafra that will maintain open borders to every black soul on the face of this very earth. I do admit that geographically, in terms of landmass, we may not be that huge. The Biafra will operate, or should I say, run an open door policy. Every black person on the face of this earth will be an honorary citizen of Biafra, as long as you're not tainted by terrorism. That is the type of Biafra we want to run. A Biafra where Europeans will sit back and say, we never knew that such innovation and creativity will be possible. A Biafra that, should I say, the likes of Rwanda is a forerunner to, because today they are doing very well as well. That is the type of nation we are going to build. A truly democratic nation, not through the force of arms, but through dialogue and negotiations at all times. Nobody's going to lord it over anybody else. My ancestors never did. That is why we remain the only people not to conquer any other piece of territory, and nobody conquered us until the white man came and our temple fell in 1904. That is the land we're going to go back to. A Biafra of very many nations. A Biafra of autonomous nations within, governing themselves according to their own rules, where nobody will sit at the helm of power and dictate for others what to do. And we are going to accomplish it by the grace of God Almighty in heaven. Now, I know that constant references are being made to Southern Sudan. But I want to let people understand that even after the USA became free from British colonial rule, they also went through a very bitter civil war. And that did not stop them today from becoming preeminent in every sphere of human endeavor, militarily, economically, socially, in every way. So I do believe that is why I said, and I have said this repeatedly, I will never ever lead Biafra politically. Once Biafra is restored, my job is done. I want to be able to prove to our people what sacrifice means, so that those who will come after us will know how to treat our people with respect and with dignity. The thing about Africa is somebody gets into power and they want to stay there forever and ever, see if there is something in it. The little work that I'm doing for Biafran people is very tiring, very, very stressful. Sometimes I don't even know how these presidents manage to sleep. Maybe they don't love their people that much. If you love your people, you cannot sleep at night. Any president in Africa who's not suffering from high blood pressure, you are not sick. That means you're doing something wrong. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. If you're concerned about your people, then I expect you to be very ill at all times. So that is the type of Biafra that we need. That's the type of Biafra we're going to have. A type of Biafra where the wealth, well-being of Sub-Saharan Africa flows from. And I can assure you we are going to deliver it. We will deliver it. The Pan-Africanism that we talk about is going to start from Biafra, because, mind you, I did not say that we're just going to have Biafra and then we shut up all the borders. No. What we want to do is to return to our organic political cultural arrangement. Should Biafrans wake up the next day to say, oh, we want to be the same country with Oduduwa, all well and good. Should Biafrans wake up and say, oh, we want to expand into Amazonia, all well and good. As long as you take the consent of the people with you, this nonsense that the Europeans did in Africa, we want to reverse it. That God Almighty heaven may look down and be very proud to say that at last, I have people who are after my heart, and that's what we intend to do with Biafra. Thank you very much.
Hashtag, we are one family, indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East. Hashtag, we are one family, indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East.
The type of Biafra I want is the Biafra of my ancestors, the land of the free, where people are allowed to pursue their daily endeavors without interference from any higher authority, where individual and collective autonomy of every component, ethnic, nationality within Biafra will be guaranteed, not just by law, but by virtue of our existence as dignified human beings. A Biafra that will be demilitarized, a Biafra that will be forward-looking, innovative, creative, run on clean, green energy, not reliant on gas or petrol. A Biafra where the police will not bear any arms. A Biafra where people can live and die and you will not see an armed soldier anywhere around you. A genuine republic, a land belonging to the people. We are going to cement this in the way we structure our society. A Biafra that will attract inward investments. A Biafra that will consider every necessity of life as being a human right. Not just in words, but in deed. A Biafra where there will be no strife, no rancor. A Biafra where all men and women will be equal, regardless of their religion, their sex, their creed, their orientation. A Biafra that will maintain open borders to every black soul on the face of this very earth. I do admit that geographically, in terms of landmass, we may not be that huge. The Biafra will operate, or should I say, run an open door policy. Every black person on the face of this earth will be an honorary citizen of Biafra, as long as you're not tainted by terrorism. That is the type of Biafra we want to run. A Biafra where Europeans will sit back and say, we never knew that such innovation and creativity will be possible. A Biafra that, should I say, the likes of Rwanda is a forerunner to, because today they are doing very well as well. That is the type of nation we are going to build. A truly democratic nation, not through the force of arms, but through dialogue and negotiations at all times. Nobody's going to lord it over anybody else. My ancestors never did. That is why we remain the only people not to conquer any other piece of territory, and nobody conquered us until the white man came and our temple fell in 1904. That is the land we're going to go back to. A Biafra of very many nations. A Biafra of autonomous nations within, governing themselves according to their own rules, where nobody will sit at the helm of power and dictate for others what to do. And we are going to accomplish it by the grace of God Almighty in heaven. Now, I know that constant references are being made to Southern Sudan. But I want to let people understand that even after the USA became free from British colonial rule, they also went through a very bitter civil war. And that did not stop them today from becoming preeminent in every sphere of human endeavor, militarily, economically, socially, in every way. So I do believe that is why I said, and have said this repeatedly, I will never ever lead Biafra politically. Once Biafra is restored, my job is done. I want to be able to prove to our people what sacrifice means, so that those who will come after us will know how to treat our people with respect and with dignity. The thing about Africa is somebody gets into power and they want to stay there forever and ever, see if there is something in it. The little work that I'm doing for Biafran people is very tiring, very, very stressful. Sometimes I don't even know how these presidents manage to sleep. Maybe they don't love their people that much. If you love your people, you cannot sleep at night. Any president in Africa who's not suffering from high blood pressure, you are not sick. That means you're doing something wrong. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. If you're concerned about your people, then I expect you to be very ill at all times. So that is the type of Biafra that we need. That's the type of Biafra we're going to have. A type of Biafra where the wealth, well-being of Sub-Saharan Africa flows from. And I can assure you we are going to deliver it. We will deliver it. The Pan-Africanism that we talk about is going to start from Biafra, because mind you, I did not say that we're just going to have Biafra and then we shut up all the borders. No. What we want to do is to return to our organic political cultural arrangement. Should Biafrans wake up the next day to say, we want to be the same country with Oduduwa, all well and good. Should Biafrans wake up and say, we want to expand into Amazonia, all well and good. As long as you take the consent of the people with you, this nonsense that the Europeans did in Africa, we want to reverse it. That God Almighty Heaven may look down and be very proud to say that at last, I have people who are after my heart. And that's what we intend to do with Biafra. Thank you very much.
We are one family, indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East. We are one family, indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East.
Let the whole wide world know Biafra is our home. Oh yeah, Biafra is our home.
A great noise will be coming from a far distance. It is a march, another march, a great march of the people, by the people, and for the people. The voice of the people must be heard when their feet begins to shake the earth. In the month of October 2022, the Biafra 1 million march in UK. We call it the March for Justice, for Love, and for Truth. The indigenous people of Biafra, United Kingdom family, invite all Biafrans, friends of Biafra, lovers of freedom, justice and fairness to the mega 2-day 1 million march in Liverpool and London on Sunday, October 16th and Monday, October 17th, 2022, respectively. 16th October for Liverpool at Anfield, the home ground of Liverpool Football Club. Of course, the team our leader Chinedu supports. A history must be made in Liverpool because it will be the prelude to the top-flight English Premiership match between Liverpool FC and Manchester City. On 17th October 2022, being the next day, the people will march in the hearts of London from Trafalgar Square to number 10 Downing Street, then to the Commonwealth Office and Parliament Building. We shall send the strongest ever message about Biafra restoration and the demand for Ahmadike's immediate and unconditional release from the Nigeria's DSS illegal detention. Come, lend your voice to these clarion calls.
Let the whole
Remember, this is a call for all lovers of truth, justice and fairness, irrespective of your race, and not just members of IPOB, nor I love IPOB. See your faces in the places. No retreat, no surrender. Come one, come all. Free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, free Biafra. This information is coming to you from the office of all state media worldwide of IPOB. Signed, IPOB Family, United Kingdom, under the leadership of the people's leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu.
Let us pray. For God in heaven, Almighty Creator, the ancients of the ancients, the maker of the heavens and the earth, you created everything that the mind of a living soul can imagine, but none created thee. That is why we say you are immortal, you are invisible, you are omnipotent. This very God that every generation who has ever had the grace of knowing thee have always testified to your goodness. That is the same God that we kneel and bow before. This God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help, even in this time of Janjaweed trouble, even in this time of Fulani rage and terrorism. Therefore we shall fear no evil. This IPOB shall fear no evil. Even if the whole world is against us, even if Britain intensifies their effort to cross this very light of hope in sub-Saharan Africa, even though they shake the mountains, even though the seas may rise, even though they may give all the weapons and ammunition to the Zoological Republic, no matter what they do, no matter how they foment their rage, it doesn't matter to us. For God, Chipokika Biama, is in the land of Biafra. We shall never ever be moved. This God of the ancients will help us now and forevermore. For Biafra shall come, and this Lord of hosts is with us. Chipokika Biama, the same God of Jacob, this same God of Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, this God that never abandons his people, this same God is our refuge, and we proclaim it unashamedly that this God that we kneel and bow before, we shall worship thee, for Biafra is your promise. Your word is yea and amen. Instead of your word not to come to pass, heaven and earth will cease to exist. Upon this very hope we anchor all our belief that Biafra shall come in our time, and we pray that it comes this very year, that your glory may be made manifest in the lives of men, that we may kneel and bow before thee.
Good morning, wonderful people, great Biafrans, wherever you are on the face of this very planet. We welcome you to our exciting edition of question and answer, debate, and interactive session this very morning. The day is the 7th day of August in the year of Most High Elohim 2020, with the time now standing at precisely 5 minutes past 7 a.m. in the morning in the land of Biafra. I welcome each and every one of you, and as I do so, I would encourage you to welcome all those who are around you as well. As you all know, we are simulcasting not just on my Facebook page and on YouTube, but we are also on FM, we are on satellite. Do not forget that those of you who are worried about your data, you can listen to us via any of the app that are streaming this content this very morning. You can download Radio Biafra, you can download TuneIn, you can download Sweet Radio, you can also download Radio Garden. There are a whole host of apps streaming Radio Biafra. You can go there and listen this very morning. As I said, it is low data usage. If you're concerned about the data you are using in listening to me on Facebook, I welcome each and every one of you. And as I do so, please, it is very, very important that you let your friends and your family know, you let your neighbors know, you let your uncles know, you let your relatives know, regardless of where they are around the world, because we are being received across the entire 24 time zones on this very planet, because we are not like any other. We are the only people who can be listened to or who can boast of listenership across the entire time zone that you have on this very planet Earth. This morning, please, please, please make sure you have your questions ready. I do not want any complimentary remarks. I want people who have issues, people who have something to say, people who have a meaningful contribution to make, to be able to step up to the plate and do so. And before I give you the numbers through which you can get hold of us this very morning, we must always do the needful. And that needful is that we must pray this very morning before we commence what we are doing. And as always, my name is Nnamdi. I am the leader of IPOB, the whole world over indigenous people of Biafra. And by the very special grace of the Most High Elohim, a servant of the wonderful people of Biafra, without further hesitation, we shall proceed to our prayers. And then after that, our lines will be open immediately, and I will begin to receive your questions and your calls. Please, please, please make sure you have a question to ask, and restrict your comments or your contributions to only 2 minutes, please. Very, very important, only 2 minutes. Our lines are not open yet, and I would not encourage anybody to call us at this very time. When our lines are open, I will let you know. I understand the desperation that a lot of people have been trying for very many years to get through. They've not been able to do so. And may I also say that if you are a previous caller, please allow first-time callers to make their contributions today. In other words, if you've called us previously and you have spoken on air, please, I do recommend very strongly that you do not call us this very day, please. Very, very important. People are beginning to call as I expect them to. As I expect them to be. Please do hold on. Our lines are not yet open. When it's open, I will begin to take your calls. We must proceed to pray very, very quickly, and then the lines will be open. And I need meaningful contributions and very searching questions this morning. People are asking all those ideas, all those issues, all those contradictions you may have. This is the time to put them to rest. This is the time to put them to bed, because any question you ask, I will be able to answer this very morning. Once again, we welcome each and every one of you. We are live and we are direct. And how do you know we are live? Is because wherever you are, it is 9 minutes past the hour, regardless of where you are. In Biafra land, it is 9 minutes past 7 a.m. in the morning. Once again, I welcome you, and please may we proceed to pray. Chineke na nke pụrụ ihe niile, onye kere eluigwe maka elu ụwa, mana onweghị onye ọbụla kere ya. Onye ike niile dị n'ọgbadoro aka ya, Chineke nna nkuzi niile nke ndị agha, onye mmụọ na mmadụ na-akpụ isi ala nye, onye ndị mmụọ ozi na-agara ozi, anyanwụ, ọnwụ na kpakpando, nna nke ebere dị ngọzi, anyị na-erubere gị isi dịka ihe niile ikere eke.
ọ bụ naanị gị bụ onye na-enweghị mmalite enweghị ọgwụgwụ inweghị ụsọtụ esi ebube dị ngọzi anyị wee na-efe gị wee na-aja ya mma n'asụsụ eluigwe n'isi ụtụtụ a n'ala nsọ gị bụ Biafra wee na-akpọkụ gị wee na-aja gị mma wee na-ebuli gị elu na asị na onweghị onye dịka gị eze ndị nsọ n'ụbọchị nketa onye nwe anyị na Chineke nna nke igwe atụmatụ ọjọọ niile nke ndị iro ka anyị onwe anyị na-akagbu ebumnobi ọjọọ niile nke ọchịchịrị nna nke ebere dị ngọzi ka ihe gị ga-acha ha niile ga-agbafu onye nwe anyị na Chineke na-abịa ka iwe zọpụta anyị n'aka ajọ ihe n'ihi na ekworo karịrị akarị ndị iro karịrị akarị ihe ọjọọ karịrị akarị ha si ugwu wee na-arịdata ndị Fulani wee gba anyị okirikiri wee na-ememila ndị gị nna nke ebere dị ngọzi ụwa niile wee gba nkịtị anyị wee na-eti mkpu wee na-achọ ndị ga-ewetara anyị enyemaka kama onweghị onye ọbụla ebumnobi anyị n'ụbọchị nketa na obi si ike anyị onye nwe anyị na Chineke nna dị ngọzi bụ na ọ bụ gị bụ onye anyị nwe bụ onye anyị gbabaworo n'ime ya nna nke igwe dịka isi wee zọpụta ndị Igbo ka ị ga-esi wee zọpụta ọgbọ nke ugbu a onye nwe anyị biko nu mere anyị ebere ma nụrụ ekpere anyị bịa ka iwe memila atụmatụ ọjọọ niile nke ndị iro bịa ka iwe kagbuo ebumnobi ọjọọ ha niile bịa ka iwe bulie anyị elu n'ọṅụ wee nye anyị Biafra ọsịsọ n'ime afọ a ka anyị na-arịọ ya onye nwe anyị ka ihere wee bụrụ nke ndị iro ka ihe gị wee chi ya n'ime ndụ ụmụ mmadụ ka ọ bụrụ na a ga-esite n'aka Biafra nna nke ebere dị ngọzi dịka okwu ọgwa ndị gị si wee dị n'isi ndị na-ebu ndị ji onwe ntụkwasị obi ka Biafra ga-eji wee nweta ihe onye nwe anyị nna nke bi n'igwe biko anyị wee na-arịọ gị ka were n'ụtụtụ na nsọpụrụ na ịja mma nara mbuli elu nara egbe isi ala n'ihi na o ruru naanị gị ugbu a ma ruo mgbe niile ebi ebi ka anyị na-arịọ gị ise we have prayed in the language of heaven and we are going to go very speedily to our lines. But please, once again, I would recommend that most of you call us via Skype. It is very, very important that you call us via Skype. And it is IPOB2020@outlook.com. IPOB2020@outlook.com. The rest of the numbers are well advertised. I'm sure that most of you do have it. But as I proceed, I will go on to keep repeating them. Once again, I would recommend very strongly that you contact us via Skype, IPOB2020. On Skype, it is called IPOB Biafra @outlook.com. IPOB Biafra if you're looking for it. I do presume that we have a caller on the line. Is that correct? No, we don't. We've lost him. The caller on the line, can you hear me? You are the first caller today. Your name and where you're calling from. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Yes. My name is Faith Ogata Adobe Biafra Queen.
And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Italy, Genova.
From Genoa in Italy. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm speaking to Jesus Christ of my time. Mazi, by the grace of Gidigbo, the only man that cured my mental slavery.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh my God. Almadike.
Yes, please.
I would like to ask concerning the terrorists Al Qaeda and ISIS coming to Biafra land. Yes. These people that is coming to Biafra land.
Please hold on a second, please. If I put you on hold, you stay where you are. I will come to you, please. I'm on a call, and then if you're on hold, please stay where you are. Please go ahead, please. Go ahead.
So these people that is coming to Biafra land, I want to ask. Is IPOB, are they going to fight this war, or this war has nothing to do with IPOB? Because I know that these people want to fight to Fulanize the people in Niger area. So I want to know if this fight has something to do with Biafrans, because what I understand is that we are going going to fight for Biafra war, to restore Biafra, if anybody oppose us or if anybody come to tell us that no, we can't go as indigenous people, we can't leave Nigeria, we must stay, then we can fight to get our land back. So I want to ask these people that is coming to our land now, are we going to fight them, or we are going to allow the people, the nigger people that is calling themselves South East, South West to do the needful by themselves? This is my question, great one.
Please, yes, your question is very, very important, very, very pertinent, very, very relevant. The simple answer is that we are going to do all we can to stop these hordes of the army of darkness from descending upon our land. It is something that we have been talking about for a very long time. I've been warning about this very looming catastrophe that is about to engulf us. Because, as I said before, the British have given the area, the zoo area, Nigeria, they've given it to their favorite pets, their house pets, should I say, their house nigger, the Fulani Janjaweed, and they are making it their home base for every Fula person all over the world. What people don't understand is that there is a movement called the National Fulbe Movement. They are on Facebook. And they are working in collaboration with Facebook management, both in the zoo, across the Sahel, and also Facebook headquarters in California. They are called the National Fulbe Movement. If you go to their page, you will see that they are armed. You will see that Facebook has not done anything to take it down because they are receiving huge sums of money from the likes of El Rufai, from the likes of the Sultan of Sokoto. These are the people who are draining the zoo dry. They sell our oil and gas and they use it to bribe people in order to enslave us, and they are coming. We are going to do all we can to resist them. But there is something we must learn.
One more thing, sir.
Go ahead.
I read an article this morning that British has retrieved all their citizens in Nigeria. They retrieved Nigerians' movement not to come in London, and their citizens also to come back home. And those of them that could not come back or maybe stubborn to stay back in Nigeria, they told them the area that they can go to and the area that they can't go to. And they mentioned Niger Delta area.
Yes, the reason being is that it is in the interest of neo-colonialists to make sure that they deplete our numbers and that those at the helm of affairs in Black Africa are those who are loyal to them, those who are their slaves, those who are their glorified messengers. These are the people they want to occupy high offices, and that is why Africa remains poor and will remain impoverished until we do something about it. Not because we hate or despise anybody, not because we are stopping them from extending their sphere of influence right across sub-Saharan Africa. That's not what we are saying. What we're trying to say is that this modern way of subjugating people, this modern way of enslaving people, this modern way of instilling ignorance in the minds of people who claim they are educated is something that we are against. Britain doesn't want anybody to visit the UK right now for the simple reason that they know something is about to happen. They don't want people who are there because once you are in the UK and there is war going on, or there is this Fulanization or Islamization agenda in full swing, they know you're going to claim asylum, and they know they're not going to say no to you because the place where you come from is a war zone. That is why they are restricting the number of people. Even Dubai have said no, UAE have said no to Nigerians, that they cannot come in. EU have said no to Nigerians, they cannot come in. And I'm sure that USA and Canada will follow suit very shortly because they understand that a war is imminent. That once these Islamists, they are on the march, the zoo will be turned into a war zone. And everybody in Europe, in America, you are now entitled to claim asylum. After all, you cannot be sent back or deported back. Everywhere is in chaos. That is the reason why they're no longer issuing any visas. That is why they're not allowing anybody to come in, because they know there is something imminent. And we all know it now. It's been announced. Even the US policymakers are now issuing paper after paper, document after document, stating the very obvious. What we've been saying from the beginning, that a full-scale Islamization agenda is now on the cards, and the zoo cannot escape it. Forget those who are living in denial. They can live in denial all they like, but one thing is certain, that the zoo is going to fall, it is going to collapse. Thank you very much, my dear sister, for opening the curtain for us this very morning. I have another caller who happens to be on Skype. I don't know if they're still there, but if they are, if they can hear me, I welcome you to the program. This is Radio Biafra, our phone session this very morning. Can you hear me, please? Your name and where you're calling from, if you may.
Am I online, Mazi?
Of course you are. The whole world is listening. Go ahead.
All right. Oluchukwu Dike Onyenewu from Nnewi, but I'm calling from Finland.
You're calling from Finland, you said?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
All right. I have 3 contributions to make, but I think I should limit it to one for today. And it is about your Twitter followership. So I have been following you on Twitter for the past month, and I have seen your followership number grow from 160-something thousand to I think about 170,000. And I wanted to talk about how we could grow it much more quickly. So take for instance, the zoo annual budget is actually about 30-something billion euros or dollars, whatever. And I realized that our people in the diaspora, we actually are the people who keep the people in the zoo afloat financially, in the sense that according to real data, our people bring in at least between 20 and 30 billion euros into Nigeria each year. So how about if you can run a broadcast and tell our people in the diaspora that when they are moving money to their relatives and friends in Nigeria, why not tell them that if you want this help, if you want me to assist you with this sum, whatever problem you have, why not say to them, join the movement? Say, for example, you need help from me. That's what I do nowadays. If you tell me you have a problem in the zoo, I tell you, okay, you want me to assist you. And I will explain to you that your poverty is actually not God-made, that it's thanks to your being a part of the zoo. So if you want help, join the movement that's going to liberate you. In exchange for joining Twitter and tweeting with our leader, I'm going to give you whatever help you're looking for. I think if our people can do it, because money is power, and as you know, money is useless in the hands of black people, but white people know how to weaponize their money and their resources. So if our people in the diaspora could stop gifting money to our impoverished friends and relatives in the zoo and say, I will help you, but this is the condition, it's the least you can do. Join the movement, or you have a smartphone, join Twitter, start retweeting. In exchange, if you want 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, then I will help you with it. If we can do it, if you can run a broadcast on this, I believe that we can do so much with the billions that we move into the zoo, because without those billions, actually, the zoo is going to turn into, I don't know, I have no word for it, but I have the belief that it's our money from the diaspora that keeps our people alive. But the zoo has the annual budget of 30-something billion, and our people are bringing in 20-something billion. So essentially, we are richer than the zoo itself. So our people need to weaponize their money and use it to support the movement. That's what I have to say for today.
Thank you very much for that. And you are absolutely right. You are correct. That is something we don't understand. Without people in the diaspora, without our people in the diaspora, there will be no zoo. Without the amount of money, the help we are moving into our land, every place, right across the board, not just Biafrans, Oduduwa people, and some sprinkling of those from Middle Belt who are in the diaspora as well. Without all that money flowing in through MoneyGram, through Western Union, through all these other plethora of money remittance platforms, the zoo will not exist it will collapse. That is something we don't understand. And we are going to make it absolutely essential and compulsory that if you need this help from people who are in the diaspora, you must also try and do something to alleviate the very mess that you're in. And as I have said repeatedly, if we flood social media, of course, we understand the restrictions, that Facebook is trying to place on us, and we are working very hard to develop alternative platforms, alternative social media platform through which we can continue to communicate freely, because obviously the Fulanis have bought over Facebook and they're doing all they can to promote Fulani violence and genderwoodism against innocent populations. It is an accusation that I'm making because even before I came on air this morning, I had one of my posts removed. They wrote to me and said we are removing it because it is in breach of our community standard. And I'm asking them today, the same community standard that the Fulani Fulbe movement is not breaching. They are displaying weapons. You can see them there very clearly. Their page hasn't been brought down. But anytime we talk about freedom, anytime we talk about ways to move ourselves out of the crippling poverty and devastation that the zoo has come to represent, Facebook will come against us. What you're saying, my dear sister, is absolutely correct. If you want help from us, then you must be on Twitter, you must be on other social media platforms so we can continue seamlessly the propagation of this very gospel, because if we come out of the mess from the zoo, then everybody will stand to benefit from it. Everybody will stand to benefit from it. As I have said, if you are a regular caller, please, I do recommend that you don't call us today. Please allow people who have not called before to try and contribute to what we are doing. Please, very, very important. And I repeat, it's IPUB2020, IPUB2020@outlook.com if you want to join us on Skype. Very, very important. Please, I have a caller on the line. I don't know if that caller can hear me. The caller, can you hear me, please? The caller on the line, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
And your name and where you're calling from, please?
I'm calling from Indonesia. I'm from Imo State in Biafra land.
Yes. And what is your name?
My name is Chinedu.
Yes, please, go ahead. We're listening. From Indonesia, go ahead.
Okay, sir. What I want to ask is, I know that for sure Biafra will come.
Of course it will.
But my question now is, in other developed countries, if you want to go and look for a job or apply for work, they won't look at your appearance, your dressing, your hairstyle. They will only look after your capability, your capacity.
Yes.
But in the zoo, it is not like that. Even when you have all the qualifications, they will still ask you for your experience. When you just came out from the university and you don't have any experience. So I want to be reassured that when Biafra come, those people in that kind of situation and those people that doesn't have the opportunity to go to school, but they have something to offer, but they don't have the platform, and those that have something to offer and they don't have the platform, what are their hope that when Biafra come, they are going to be recognized and given opportunity to develop and help the new nation? I want to know and be reassured.
You don't need any reassurance. What we are saying is that we are trying to build a country that is not like any other in Africa, and joblessness will be a thing of the past. And it will be a level playing field. There are work that those without degree can also do. We are going to develop the 4 critical, or should I say essential areas of craft. There's something called craft. It is called woodwork. It is called stoneworks. It is called glassworks. And then which other one is that? It is called also, no, in fact it is 3. Woodwork. No, yes. Is it 4 or 3? Woodwork, metalwork, stoneworks, and glassworks. It is 4. I repeat, woodwork, glassworks, metalwork, and stoneworks. Very, very essential. We are going to build houses with stones, with rocks, not with block, not the block you see every day. And those who are going to undertake those very critical, and should I say, essential work in terms of the overall architectural presentation of Biafra. Most of them may not have degrees,
but they will be meaningfully employed. We are going to have plumbers. We are going to have people who will work on our drainage system. They may not go to university, but they're going to be well paid. Some of them will receive more pay than those who are graduates, because that is the way it is. Everything will be driven by demand and supply, but nobody will be left behind. That I can assure you. The political economy phase of what we are going to accomplish in Biafra land will be so compelling that the rest of Africa will be forced to copy from us. Nobody will be unemployed as it used to be in the past. In our land, many years ago, before the white man came, there was no unemployment. Everybody had something they were doing. Nobody, that's why we never had any beggars, and we are going to return to that. Everybody will be meaningfully employed based on merit. Nobody is going to get any comparative advantage over the other because of their status, their position, or who they know. Everything will be a level playing field. That I can assure you. The same way I don't allow or encourage the building of any cabal within IPOB is how Biafra land is going to be. There will be no cabal, no old boys network. Everything is going to work the way it's supposed to be, which is if you merit something, then you will occupy that very position. Thank you very much for calling. Thank you very much. We have another caller on the line, if I'm not mistaken. This very caller, can you hear me? We are live and we are direct and the whole world is listening. Give us your name and where you're calling from, please, if you may. Can you hear me? No, you cannot hear us. Your line is not stable. You cannot hear us. We are now going to the line to see who else is there. The caller on Skype, can you hear me? Good morning. Your system is not turned down and I cannot listen to you. If your system is noisy, if I can hear any background noise, if I can hear my voice on the background, then I cannot take your call. I've warned many times. If you're calling, you must step away from your listening device. Once you're close to your listening device, I cannot and will not, in all sincerity, be able to take your call. We have a caller on the line. This caller, can you hear me? Your name and where you are, please.
Hello, our Lion King.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning to you. Your name and where you're calling from, if you may.
My name is Chukwuemeka. I'm from Anam. My name is Norman Bala. I'm calling from India.
From India, please go ahead.
Our Lion King, I have three things to say. One is to tell the whole Biafra the dream I had 2 months ago. Second is to ask you why our people are not speaking our language. Biafrans are not speaking language, their native language, just like others, like Oduduwa and Fulani, Hausa and Fulani. Second is to tell our people the this you are talking about the Fulani taking our land. So let me start from my dream. Can you hear me, our Lion King?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Please cut out, leave the dream alone and ask your question, please. The dream, you can inbox me, you can leave me a voice note and I will listen to it. Just go straight to your question. Leave out the dream, just tell us, you ask your question. That is what people want to hear. People wish to be educated about what we are doing. So ask your question and I'll be able to answer it. Leave the dream, you can send that to me on a private inbox or voice note at some time in the future. Please go ahead. Your question, please.
Sir. Why is it that our people are ashamed of speaking our native languages? But Yorubas and our Hausas, they speak their native languages.
I don't think that is the case, because if you ask all those people, they will also tell you. If you ask our Oduduwa friends, they will tell you that the various ethnic groups in Biafra land, especially the Igbos, are fond of always speaking their language, even when they are in front of people. The thing is that we have stopped developing. You are right in a way, because we have stopped adding new words. What people don't understand is that in every language around the world, especially the languages that I would say are advanced, those that are being studied, there are new words being added to the Oxford English Dictionary almost every year. New words are being created. English is very virulent. It is very strong. It is growing. The same thing with French. The same thing with Russian and all other major languages around the world. The problem that we have is that there was a demonization of our language during colonialism. It was part of the plan to make you feel inferior, part of the plan to make you feel that everything you have, everything everything you are is awful. It's just like bleaching cream that people put on their skin. That is the way it is. When we were attending school, kindergarten, it was called in those days, and primary school, if you speak Igbo language, you'll be flogged. If you speak Igbo language, you will be disciplined. I remember at Government College, Omaha, if you speak Igbo language, people will look at you funny. You'll be laughed at. In fact, you'll be disciplined, as a matter of fact. So we are made to feel ashamed of our language. And growing up, you grow up with that mentality that when you speak your language, that is, in fact, that your language is something to be ashamed of. But unfortunately, should I say fortunately, for the Yorubas, for instance, the Yoruba language never went out of fashion. They felt very comfortable with it. But whereas where we come from, we are told that speaking our native language is very, very horrible. But one thing I can assure you is this. In our new Biafra, the lingua franca for the first 20-25 years is going to be English language, and then after that, an indigenous language will be developed, encompassing every dialect, every tongue we have in Biafra land. It is as simple as that. That's what we are going to do. And as you well know, I have granted interviews on many occasions speaking our native language. And I spoke it without adding one word of English. And that is what I will encourage people to do. It's a very beautiful language that we have, be it BBO, be it Efik, be it Kolokama, which is the dominant Isan language. And again, our problem is that we have too many languages because we don't have a history of conquest. The reason why sometimes you have, let's say in the British Isles, you have English dominating in the British Isles is because England went and conquered, no, would I say conquer, but over many years, they dominated Scotland, they dominated Wales and the Irish. So English became very dominant. You know, if you go to Europe where such dominance was not allowed, you have a French language, you have Flemish language spoken in Belgium, you have the Germans, you have the Dutch language, you have even the Dutch, which is what is spoken in Holland. You have all these different languages. The thing is that you have to be proud of your language. And the way to be proud of it is that teachers should be able to teach it, people should be allowed to speak it. And mind you, in Biafra land, in this new Biafra, we are going to have a confederation, which means even within Biafra land, you're going to have the Igbo nation in Biafra land. You are going to have the BBO nation in Biafra land. You're going to have the Efik nation in Biafra land. You're even going to have the Ogoja Echagan people in Biafra. It's going to be a nation. Even Isoko will be a nation in Biafra land. Urobo will be a nation in Biafra land. Ishekiri will be a nation in Biafra land. And the land of Itu Igudomigudo will be a nation in Biafra land. And they are going to make their own laws in their own local language. So we are going to have some kind of revival. Our language is going to come back, that I can assure you. What we are suffering now is the devastating effect of colonialism and neo-colonialism. But with the coming of Biafra, we're going to sweep all that away. A very, very intelligent question you asked, and thank you very much for that. Once again, we are live and we are directing. Most of our calls we are taking via Skype. This very morning, we are taking it via Skype. And we want people to know that you can call us on Skype and we'll take your call. Please, your name and where you're calling from, please. No, your line is not strong enough. It is not strong enough. Unfortunately, your line is not strong enough. So we are unable to take your call because your line is not strong enough. This other caller on the line, can you hear me, please? Can you hear me? No, I can hear a noise on the background. I will not take your call. The caller on the line, can you hear me? No, again, there is a noise on the background. Once I hear my voice, a noise on the background, I will not take your call. Your name, please, and where you're calling from, the caller on Skype. We are live and we are direct, and the world is listening.
Good morning, Mazi, Nnamdi, Kanu.
Good morning.
My name is Odinipa Kwako. I am from Mumezanam in Anambra West Local Government. I am calling you from New Delhi, India.
New Delhi in India. Please go ahead. We are listening. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. I want to say something. I want to tell our people in Nigeria that they should not participate in all these nonsense protests in Nigeria. I want
want to tell them that the protests in Nigeria have nothing to do with Biafra struggle. All this so-called revolution now, it's none of our business. Our own focus should be on restoring Biafra. Please, every Biafran to stay off the protest. It's none of our business. They are struggling they are fighting for their one Nigeria. It has nothing to do with our own struggle. So if you want to go to protest, please stay back. Don't go, because these are the same people that threw Goodluck out of power in 2012 and 15. The same people that started this process. They were the one that were the other time in Lagos. They were the one in Abuja calling Goodluck all sorts of names. I am not saying that Goodluck is a perfect man, but he is our brother. So they did it in 2012. They should do it again this time. We shouldn't participate in it. Thank you, my leader. That's my own contribution this morning.
Thank you very much for that, and a very succinct one at that as well. Thank you very, very much. The fact of the matter is that we need to encourage anything that would highlight the ineptitude, the crass misgovernance happening in the damnable Zoological Republic. That is the only reason why I would support it. And I don't want us to judge people by their own standards. We should always judge people, by our own standards, so to speak. We should always judge people by what they do. And if that thing they're doing is geared towards achieving the same goal, then we should encourage it. What I would like to say is that if there is any civil disobedience, if there is anything geared towards highlighting the very deplorable state of the zoo, if there are things that people are doing that will bring to the fore or to global attention the misgovernance, the corruption, and the evil happening in the zoo, then we must encourage it. That is the only reason why we must support it. I know that some of them were against us when we were protesting. I know that some of them even encouraged or sided with the zoo to come down very heavily upon us the time we took it up, because we see things in advance that people cannot see. We knew that this very project called Zoo Nigeria is not going to work, and we did something about it. Now they have woken from their slumber. So we say good morning to them. We are not going to say we would not engage with them, of course not, because they are doing something also very vital to try to highlight the mess that the zoo is in. Very, very important, of course. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much, my dear brother, for that. Very, very encouraging. I have a caller again who happens to be on Skype. Can you hear me, please? Your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, my name is Okuchukwu. I'm calling from Federal Capital Territory, Zoo, Nigeria.
You're calling from the Zoological Republic. Please go ahead.
Yes, in capital.
Hashtag, we are one family. Indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East. Hashtag, we are one family. Indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East.
The type of Biafra I want is the Biafra of my ancestors, the land of the free, where people are allowed to pursue their daily endeavors without interference from any higher authority, where individual and collective autonomy of every component, ethnic, nationality within Biafra will be guaranteed, not just by law, but by virtue of our existence as dignified human beings. A Biafra that will be demilitarized, a Biafra that will be forward-looking, innovative, creative, run on clean, green energy, not reliant on gas or petrol. A Biafra where the police will not bear any arms. A Biafra where people can live and die and you will not see an armed soldier anywhere around you. A genuine republic, a land belonging to the people. We are going to cement this in the way we structure our society. A Biafra that will attract inward investment A Biafra that will consider every necessity of life as being a human right, not just in words, but in deed. A Biafra where there will be no strife nor rancor. A Biafra where all men and women will be equal, regardless of their religion, their sex, their creed, their orientation. A Biafra that will maintain open borders to every black soul on the face of this very earth. I do admit that geographically, in terms of landmass, we may not be that huge. The Biafra will operate, or should I say, run an open door policy. Every black person on the face of this earth will be an honorary citizen of Biafra, as long as you're not tainted by terrorism. That is the type of Biafra we want to run. A Biafra where Europeans will sit back and say, we never knew that such innovation and creativity will be possible. A Biafra that, should I say, the likes of Rwanda is a forerunner to, because today they are doing very well as well. That is the type of nation we are going to build. A truly democratic nation, not through the force of arms, but through dialogue and negotiations at all times. Nobody's going to lord it over anybody else. My ancestors never did. That is why we remain the only people not to conquer any other piece of territory, and nobody conquered us until the white man came and our temple fell in 1904. That is the land we're going to go back to. A Biafra of very many nations, a Biafra of autonomous nations within, governing themselves according to their own rules, where nobody will sit at the helm of power and dictate for others what to do. And we are going to accomplish it by the grace of God Almighty in heaven. Now, I know that constant references are being made to Southern Sudan. But I want to let people understand that even after the USA became free from British colonial rule, they also went through a very bitter civil war. And that did not stop them today from becoming preeminent in every sphere of human endeavor, militarily, economically, socially, in every way. So I do believe that is why I said, and I have said this repeatedly, I will never ever lead Biafra politically. Once Biafra is restored, my job is done. I want to be able to prove to our people what sacrifice means, so that those who will come after us will know how to treat our people with respect and with dignity. The thing about Africa is somebody gets into power and they want to stay there forever and ever, see if there is something in it. The little work that I'm doing for Biafran people is very tiring, very, very stressful. Sometimes I don't even know how these presidents manage to sleep. Maybe they don't love their people that much. If you love your people, you cannot sleep at night. Any president in Africa who's not suffering from high blood pressure, you are not sick. That means you're doing something wrong. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. If you're concerned about your people, then I expect you to be very ill at all times. So that is the type of Biafra that we need. That's the type of Biafra we're going to have. A type of Biafra where the wealth, well-being of Sub-Saharan Africa flows from. And I can assure you we are going to deliver it. We will deliver it. The Pan-Africanism that we talk about is going to start from Biafra, because mind you, I did not say that we're just going to have Biafra and then we shut up all the borders. No. What we want to do is to return to our organic political cultural arrangement. Should Biafrans wake up the next day to say, oh, we want to be the same country with Oduduwa, all well and good. Should Biafrans wake up and say, oh, we want to expand into Amazonia, all well and good. As long as you take the consent of the people with you, this nonsense that the Europeans did in Africa, we want to reverse it. That God Almighty heaven may look down and be very proud to say that at last, I have people who are after my heart. And that's what we intend to do with Biafra. Thank you very much.
Hashtag, we are one family, indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East. Hashtag, we are one family, indivisible. under Chukwu Okike Abiyama. We are the people of the East.
The type of Biafra I want is the Biafra of my ancestors, the land of the free, where people are allowed to pursue their daily endeavors without interference from any higher authority, where individual and collective autonomy of every component, ethnic, nationality within Biafra will be guaranteed, not just by law, but by virtue of our existence as dignified human beings. A Biafra that will be demilitarized, a Biafra that will be forward-looking, innovative, creative, run on clean, green energy, not reliant on gas or petrol. A Biafra where the police will not bear any arms. A Biafra where people can live and die and you will not see an armed soldier anywhere around you. A genuine republic, a land belonging to the people. We are going to cement this in the way we structure our society. A Biafra that will attract inward investments. A Biafra that will consider every necessity of life as being a human right. Not just in words, but in deed. A Biafra where there will be no strife nor rancor. A Biafra where all men and women will be equal, regardless of their religion, their sex, their creed, their orientation. A Biafra that will maintain open borders to every black soul on the face of this very earth. I do admit that geographically, in terms of landmass, we may not be that huge. The Biafra will operate, or should I say, run an open door policy. Every black person on the face of this earth will be an honorary citizen of Biafra, as long as you're not tainted by terrorism. That is the type of Biafra we want to run. A Biafra where Europeans will sit back and say, we never knew that such innovation and creativity will be possible. A Biafra that, should I say, the likes of Rwanda is a forerunner to, because today they are doing very well as well. That is the type of nation we are going to build. A truly democratic nation, not through the force of arms, but through dialogue and negotiations at all times. Nobody's going to lord it over anybody else. My ancestors never did. That is why we remain the only people not to conquer any other piece of territory, and nobody conquered us until the white man came and our temple fell in 1904. That is the land we're going to go back to. A Biafra of very many nations. A Biafra of autonomous nations within, governing themselves according to their own rules, where nobody will sit at the helm of power and dictate for others what to do. And we are going to accomplish it by the grace of God Almighty in heaven. Now, I know that constant references are being made to Southern Sudan. But I want to let people understand that even after the USA became free from British colonial rule, they also went through a very bitter civil war. And that did not stop them today from becoming preeminent in every sphere of human endeavor, militarily, economically, socially, in every way. So I do believe that is why I said, and I have said this repeatedly, I will never ever lead Biafra politically. Once Biafra is restored, my job is done. I want to be able to prove to our people what sacrifice means, so that those who will come after us will know how to treat our people with respect and with dignity. The thing about Africa is somebody gets into power and they want to stay there forever and ever, see if there is something in it. The little work that I'm doing for Biafran people is very tiring, very, very stressful. Sometimes I don't even know how these presidents manage to sleep. Maybe they don't love their people that much. If you love your people, you cannot sleep at night. Any president in Africa who's not suffering from high blood pressure, you are not sick. That means you're doing something wrong. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. If you're concerned about your people, then I expect you to be very ill at all times. So that is the type of Biafra that we need. That's the type of Biafra we're going to have. A type of Biafra where the wealth, well-being of Sub-Saharan Africa flows from. And I can assure you we are going to deliver it. We will deliver it. The Pan-Africanism that we talk about is going to start from Biafra, because mind you, I did not say that we're just going to have Biafra and then we shut up all the borders. No. What we want to do is to return to our organic political cultural arrangement. Should Biafrans wake up the next day to say, oh, we want to be the same country with Oduduwa, all well and good. Should Biafrans wake up and say, oh, we want to expand into Amazonia, all well and good. As long as you take the consent of the people with you, this nonsense that the Europeans did in Africa, we want to reverse it. That God Almighty heaven may look down and be very proud to say that at last, I have people who are after my heart, and that's what we intend to do with Biafra. Thank you very much.
Hashtag, we are one family. Indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East. Hashtag, we are one family. Indivisible. Under Chukwu Okike Abiyama, we are the people of the East.
Let the whole wide world know Biafra is our home. Oh yeah, Biafra is our home.
A great noise will be coming from a far distance. It is a march, another march, a great march of the people, by the people, and for the people. The voice of the people must be heard. When their feet begins to shake the earth. In the month of October 2022, the Biafra 1 million march in UK. We call it the March for Justice, for Love, and for Truth. The indigenous people of Biafra, United Kingdom family, invite all Biafrans, friends of Biafra, lovers of freedom, justice and fairness to the mega 2-day 1 million march in Liverpool and London on Sunday, October 16th and Monday, October 17th, 2022, respectively. 16th October for Liverpool at Anfield, the home ground of Liverpool Football Club. Of course, the team our leader Chinedu supports. A history must be made in Liverpool because it will be the prelude to the top flight English Premiership match between Liverpool FC and Manchester City. On 17th October 2022, being the next day, the people will march in the hearts of London from Trafalgar Square to number 10 Downing Street, then to the Commonwealth Office and Parliament Building. We shall send the strongest ever message about Biafra restoration and the demand for Ahmadike's immediate and unconditional release from the Nigeria's DSS illegal detention. Come, lend your voice to these clarion calls. Remember, this is a call for all lovers of truth, justice and fairness, irrespective of your race, and not just members of IPOB, nor I love IPOB. See your faces in the places. No retreat, no surrender. Come one, come all. Free Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, free Biafra. This information is coming to you from the office of all state media worldwide of IPOB. Signed, IPOB Family, United Kingdom, under the leadership of the people's leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu.
What I'm saying, Honorable Manyamini, our people are lame. They are weak. I am struggling to count how many men there are in Biafra land. There are no more men left. Weak, docile, and imbecilic. Weak. I don't know how we can take such people to war. I don't know how we can take men who are not men into battle and win. I am ashamed. Very, very ashamed. Nonetheless, we must preach this very gospel because man did not ask us to come. Chukwu Abiyama in heaven mandated that we should come. If not, that I was called to do this very work, I will not speak to any of you anymore. But Chukwu Abiyama said this very gospel must be preached, and we must preach it. I have prayed since yesterday up until now. My request is very simple. The same prayer I made in secret, I will make out here in the open. Chukwu Abiyama biko, since it is your intention that your kingdom will be restored upon this very earth, I need men. I need men. I did not say boys. I said I need men. Those of them that you created to restore your kingdom, they should come forward now, not tomorrow, not next year. Chukwu Abiyama. You must bring them now. I did not say tomorrow. Because the insult is too much. It is beyond what any human being can endure. We want to go and get Biafra, or we die in the process, because we are better off dead than witness some of this nonsense going on. The level of insult is beyond what any decent human being can tolerate. They bring their cattle into our land. They desecrate our land. They kill us in the presence of our families and nobody does anything about it. And when the police attend, the police sit idly by as people are being killed by not a multitude of people. Only 4. Only 4 Hausa people can sack an entire village in Biafra land, and we call ourselves men. No, we are not men until we redeem our honor, until we look at integrity and say we must have a part of it. Until then, to be honest with you, this is Radio Biafra. Now is the time to come forward. I did not say tomorrow. Now, tonight is the time to come forward. 100 of us, and then we march. 100 and we march. The rest can come later if they want to. I am tired of broadcasting. I want to fight for my country. I want to carry arms to defend the honor and integrity of my country. I want to avenge the death of 6 million people. I want Biafra to stand as a beacon of hope, freedom, and liberty in black world. I want Biafra to stand as a testament to the glory of heaven upon the face of this very earth. I want Biafra to stand because my obligation to the dead outweigh that which I owe to the living. That is why Biafra will stand, and Biafra will come. 100 men, that's all. And we march. The rest can come later on. I no longer give a damn. The disgrace and the insult is too much. We must go and meet our enemies, even if we have only machete and hoes. It is far more better for us to go and meet them and die with a semblance of dignity than with this very humiliation which we encounter every blessed day. We must assemble as we...
What I'm going to share with you is the ongoing history of how Biafra came about. And it's not something we rush through, because history has been denied in the school, and therefore people grew up not knowing what actually happened. I'm not going to say, everything that I speak to you, I was there. No, nobody can possibly be there. But we are so blessed and so privileged to have the Eastern Nigerian government at the time. They took their time to record what happened to our people. So, what did they do? They went about to establish a tribunal. This tribunal is to allow those who survived the pogrom to come and give eyewitness accounts of what they went through. They were cross-examined. They were under oath in front of the High Court judge. the Chief Justice. This new case commission was targeted at getting at the bottom of the truth of what happened to our people. So it's a worthy read. I wish one day in every Biafran school we will have this commission report called the Massacre of Nnamdi 1966. Is anybody who can read and can understand must read it. So there'll be no ambiguity as to what happened to our people. Briefly then, the tribunal was set up by the Eastern Region government to ask those who survived the pogrom. Remember that those who died, nobody could give account of them. Those people who actually survived, who extricated themselves out of the north or northern Nigeria, were asked to come and give witness. It took 49 days. There were 253 witnesses. There was an exhibition of 498 exhibits. They went from town to town, from Enugu to Onitsha, to Aba, to Port Harcourt, to Calabar, to Uyo and Ogoja, gathering this information and therefore recording it, not just for you and I to read, but for history and also for posterity. So the issue at the moment in Nigeria is that those who perpetrated this crime don't even want to say they have done it, let alone apologize for it. There are still ongoing killing of our people. If we do not know where this thing started, how are we then going to defend ourselves? So there's a saying that if we don't know where the rain started beating us, we're not going to learn to defend ourselves from the rain. So this is the reason behind knowing the source of the history and the eyewitness accounts, which I'm going to share with you today. Because of the time constraint, I'm going to therefore limit it and structure it in such a way that hopefully most of you will understand it. There are underheadings of motives. Why did this happen? The motives for massacre. The next one is the methodology. How do you get about? And of course, the crime itself, the madness, the murder. It's like a crime scene. What motives they have? How did they go about it? And the actual crime. So motives, method, and the madness, I call it. The third bit is to look at, just pick, because of the time, we can't go through every single witness account. We pick maybe 2 or 3 towns where this pogrom was visited and the people of Eastern Region. Remember at that time, they're not called Biafrans. They thought they were Nigerians. They're in the same country. But where they were is a different part of the same country, but were killed by their neighbors, their co-workers, and so on and so forth. So we're going to look at the towns like Katsina, Kanu, Kanji, and of course Kaduna. So I'm going to begin by saying to you the motives, quite briefly. Okay, so Mazi might be surprised to note that one of the witnesses, his name is Mazi, S-W-A-N Onoha. I'm not sure if they're related.
Maybe, who knows? That's a sweet coincidence.
Yes, so just in case it's related, you have a relative who went to the north in the 60s. It might be part of their witness. Okay, so what I'm going to read to you is what they thought was the motivating factor. What in the crime scene or in a criminal court. I'm sure I'm talking after my league here. You know more about it than I do. The judge will ask you, what are the motives if you say he didn't? What are his motivations? What motivated him to do such a thing? So we can look at extenuating circumstances, for example. So the motivation, for example, so now what I'm going to tell you about. The motive for the pogrom is something which they have looked into. Okay, and they said that the question is the complete extermination of Easterners from the place in the north. In other words, how did they stop killing people in the north? Well, the answer to that is when there was no more Easterners to be killed. So they have succeeded. So that's one of the motives, to chase away and kill as many of Easterners as they possibly can in the north. Okay? Then, in connection, they had what they call the 7-point program, or 7-point agenda of the organizers of the pogrom. Some people went down, they had several meetings, they organized this actual killing of the Easterners. It's exhibit SWAN, that's the initials of Mr. Onoha, SWAN, so it's exhibit SWAN 24. And it reads as follows. Number one motive, to kill off the Major General and the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. His name is Major General JTU Agi Rensi. They succeeded. Secondly, to kill off all the Yamri army officers. They killed as many as they can. Over 200 of them were killed. The third one is they subsequently purged the army of Yamri by killing the rest of the ranks and file. What happened? They called a bugle. Everybody came out, and those who were evil were chased out from the line and killed. The officers murdered. Okay? So this all happened on the 29th of July. Then the next reason for motivation was, with the aid of the Westerners, they said, in the army, to take complete control of the armed forces. They take over the complete control of the police force, the navy, and to purge off the Yamiris, as they call the Easterners, in all these forces. So they turned around the Nigerian military, which was multi-ethnic, multilingual, multi-religious, into a mono-ethnic. Well, a bloc from the north, which is supposed to control the army, police, navy, air force, everything. So that is all part of their motivation. So we are feeding in Nigeria today part of this plan, this one's exhibition. This Mr. Onwa has exhibition of the plan for killing our people. Then the next one is to kill off and dispossess all the Anyamri domiciled in the northern region. They succeeded. Then the next was to use the armed forces to take complete control of the country's government. And that's what they did under Yakubu Gowon. So they took over the complete control, the running machinery of the government, because they killed Agi Rensi, they killed his host, Faji, who's a Yoruba guy in Ibadan, looking up who is his host. They killed both of them, and then they turned onto the soldiers and killed them. And as a result, they made the place ungovernable, in the sense that they controlled the Lagos, they controlled the north, and they had difficulty taking over the east. So the coup of 29 of July 1966 was partially successful. They changed the government, all right, but they have not got complete control of the eastern region. So because Sojuku was in the eastern region, because the coup did not affect that, it was a partial success. And that is why we had the war. Because Sojuku said, no, you can't cross this line and kill my people and get away with it. So part of the motivation also was they want a revenge. Okay, you can argue that the Saduna Sokoto, who is, as I said last time, the spiritual leader and also the governor of the northern region then, should not have been killed. The hotheads, the young military, the majors and the captains, led by Nzog in the north, Ifajin in the west, they succeeded in killing their spiritual leader, Saduna Sokoto, Hamadu Bello. And then Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, his prime minister, was also killed. So now, part of the motive there for killing all the people living in the north who have Eastern origin was to get rid of these people, and because having killed their own, they want to revenge on Dr. Azikiwe, they want to kill Dr. Abara, they want to kill Ojukwu, they want to kill Major Nzogu. The interesting thing, killing Ojukwu, although Ojukwu became the governor of the Eastern region, he was actually in the north, helped to stop the coup in the north. The Commonwealth countries met in Lagos, and all the politicians were returning from Lagos to Kanu. Ojukwu welcomed them. So if they think it was an Igbo coup, he would have locked them all up. But he was one who protected and looked after them. So yet, in their agenda or motive, they want to kill Ojukwu and also Major Nzogu. Major Nzogu died during the war, but they gave him a military honor burial. They took his body from Enugu, where he died, around the Nsukka sector, and buried him in Kaduna, as I understand. Okay, so then the next thing is to destroy Port Harcourt, Enugu, University of Nigeria, and Nsukka, which they have succeeded, partly, because the University of Nsukka, even up till now, the chemical department has not been activated, because they fear that they may produce more chemicals during the war. Then finally, to kill off all the Yamri top civil servants, and all the wealthy Yamri, male and female, all the Yamri educated giants. It's like if you don't have educated giants, you kill other people's educated giants. Anyway, all grown up males and females in Yamri, and then to leave only sucklings and Yamri in their land. And in their radio Kaduna broadcast throughout the war is, yes, let us go and kill all the Yamris, rape their women, take their property, and leave them the just baby suckling. So that was all the motivation. So if you're in the middle of the court and the judge asks, what was their motive? These are the 7-point agenda which is lined up and was made known to us by the witness. He's called his 8th witness, Mr. S.A.W.A.N. Onoha. Okay, so that is a basis for which they operate on. Now, how did they go about the method? The method they went about was excessive madness in a way. They didn't just kill you, they made sure the way they went about it was so bad. And it's maybe some of us have to make sure you have strong stomach when we read most of the things they did to our people. Okay? How did they do it? First of all, there's a planned killing of our people. Like most genocide, they have those who sit down and plan it. So it was planned, mostly by their undergraduates at Ahmadu Bello University. They also had sometimes the help of the foreigner. British people, especially British lecturers, assisted them in planning this pogrom. They wanted revenge of the Sajuana. They wanted to make sure nobody on the east rose in the northern part to play any role whatsoever. So the killing was deliberate. It was directed. It was specific, targeting Easterners. Well, I keep calling them Easterners so that you know at that time they were from Eastern region of Nigeria. So they were targeting, directed to them, specific to them. If you find a Yoruba person, you left them out. If you find an Igbo person, you killed them. It was unrelenting. In other words, there were several waves of it. There was one in May. There was one in July. There was one in September. There was one in October. So it was waves after waves after waves. Was it spontaneous? Well, if you throw a pebble inside a pond, it will strain from the point where it landed and ripple outwards. Okay? But this one, it didn't start from one point and then ripple outwards. It was every city started at 7 o'clock on Saturday evening. It was planned. Okay, imagine a whole vast area of northern Nigeria as big as Western Europe. Every single city, they all came out to start killing the Igbos 7 o'clock on a Saturday in one of the instances. So it was planned on that time at that hour. Then what else? It was coordinated. They even had buses which the native authority had. It's like the people who run northern Nigeria, they're called the native authority. Part of them run the police and so on. So they took the buses from these people, went into the villages and got people to come out from the villages to come into town to kill the Igbos or to kill the Yamaris or to kill the Easterners. They also imported in some instances people who are believed not to be necessarily Nigerians, but people from Chad and so on, specifically come to join in killing. They use all sorts of weapons. They use an arrow, axes, clubs, stones. They use guns. They use any weapon they can get hold of. They burned people alive. They buried them in wells. They all did all sorts of things. And the most important thing that tell you that was not a spontaneous accident that happened, people were just rioting and killing anyhow. They were involved by they used the typed, let me repeat that, typed address of where the Easterners live. They had in their hand typed address of where these people live, so they would not miss their houses. Okay. When they went to Yoruba land, I mentioned before, they had to knock on your door and they mentioned Toro. And if you say Toro like an Igbo person compared to Yoruba person, they know you are foreign and they killed you. Okay. Don't forget the people's faces were also scarred. You can also identify who is Yamali or who is from Eastern region and who isn't by the scar on their faces and so on and so forth. So if you're Yoruba, you normally have your scar, your tribal marking, I call it. And also in the northern, they have their own tribal marking. So you can see somebody, majority but did not have this tribal mark, so you can also identify who they are. Okay, so that is some of the methods which they used. Okay, so it's in actually killing. That's one. The second one I want to point your attention to is that in addition to all this planning, okay, they also had what I call deception. They say to you, if a group of Easterners heard, there's going to be a killing from Friday onwards, so they start packing their bags. So the next thing you come on the radio and say, oh no, you heard a rumor that there was going to be killing. Actually, there isn't. Don't worry about it. We will protect. No, we will protect you. Honestly, we will. Don't worry about it. it's all false. So they stayed behind. And of course, it was a false rumor. It was not a false rumor, it was a genuine rumor, but they allowed them to stay to be killed. Okay, so I don't know if I explained that properly. You hear that there's going to be killing. Instead of allowing them to act on that rumor, they decided that no. Let me reassure you that it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it on the radio. So this guy stayed and they got killed. Then the next trick they used, which is another methodology, which is very, very clever. It's like they even go. There's one which acted well in Kanu, which we'll talk about Kanu shortly. They said that we hear that people are trying to go back to the east by train on the 1st of October, and there'll be a train leaving Kanu. So please make sure you pack your bags, and that we encourage you to board the train and that. Of course, on that day, there'll be lots and lots of people from the eastern region who pack their belongings and everything and go to the station. And when they get there, there'll be no train. And then instead, the military will arrive with a gang of people, and they got clobbered to death and killed. So there's so many tricks they use to lure our people into positions of helplessness. And the other thing they did was to cause them to be disarmed. Now, normally you have your double-barrel gun, you have your knife, you have something to even defend yourself. They went around making sure all these people they're going to kill were disarmed beforehand. So they were defenseless. And then the military went around with the crowd and killed as many of them as possible. So that is part of the revolting aspect of how they went about killing our people. And it's really is something worth bearing in mind. There's so many other ways of describing what they did to us. For example, let me just find you what happened. So on one of the days, instance, many people were killed, and the NA, which is the Northern Authority policemen, used their big lorries to carry the corpses to the grave. Okay, they hide the body. The dead body were buried in groups of 20, in groups of 50, in groups of 60. Okay, and then large graves were dug by the caterpillars that belonged to this Northern Authority people. The burial was conducted by the armed soldiers. The soldiers were standing by with their arms. So they said it was because this guy who was able to see all this was wearing the Hausa dress, okay, one of the witnesses, and he spoke fluent Hausa. So they will not tell that it's Igbo person watching them. So another bad thing was a Benin lady who was killed, and many sharp pieces of broken bottles packed into her private part. And they left her naked inside a hotel. Okay? Another one is Pauline, Mrs. Pauline, who was killed in the same day, Enugu Road, and International Hotel. And the Ibibio man who was burnt alive inside his car at the airport road. He was a meteorological officer. Then they saw a Hausa man who conducted sexual intercourse on a young girl, on an Igbo girl, and Kanu, and this girl vomited until she died. It was gang raped. There's so many things they did to us. So the attacks on schools and churches provided yet another instances of callosities and, of course, of the assailants. So they desecrated the church. The people professing to know and worship God, the very difficult way of explaining it, doing God honor. That's the attack on armed civilians by the army, by police, and supposed to give them protection. That's the worst thing. The police and the army, you're supposed to run to them for protection, but in fact, it was the same people who joined in and was behind and watched you be killed. So that's part and parcel why they can never be trusted. So I'll talk to you briefly about the motives of the massacre, the method where they went about it. They're other, of course. They put a rod behind your back, they tie your hand behind a long rod, and there they gouge out your eye, took out your private parts, and all sorts of things. There are so many methods. I don't want to make it even worse, but I just want to now concentrate on the madness. I'm going to use Katina. I know time is spent, or time is pressing, so let me know how I'm doing with time, because we need to tell this story properly.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I think we have about half an hour. Yes, more or less.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm now going to describe what happened in individual towns. I'm going to take Katsina, which is the hometown of Buhari, of course. Katsina in 1966, May. So the Katsina, of course, is the capital of the Katsina Emirate. The Emir of Katsina is the father of the military governor of the northern Nigeria at that time, called Lieutenant Colonel Hassan Katsina. There are 4 principal witnesses that gave evidence of the disturbances made riot in Katsina. Okay, so we're going to now hear from those who were in Katsina in May when the riot started. Their names are Enoch Enoch Ejikeme. He is the 26th witness. Then there's a Vincent Modebel, and he's the 27th witness. Then there's a James Aka, who is 138th witness, and Mrs. Cecilia Mabel Anebuna. So there are names which are entered into this tribunal, which can be cross-referenced and checked out. The 26th witness, Enoch Ejikeme, right? He lived in Katsina, he said, for 15 years, from 1951 to June 1966, when he was compelled by the disturbances to flee the north. He owned a story building near the Emir's palace. This is what he has to say. I am a native of Ojoto. Katsina is perhaps the area worst affected by the disturbances, even though there was a deliberate attempt to play down the seriousness of the situation there, both during and after the disturbances. I am willing to appear before the tribunal to give evidence about what I saw during the disturbances. So what I'm saying to you is that there are people who survived it, who are willing to testify under oath and cross-examine as to what they saw. So the event we're reading that has been stored for posterity is genuine and can be taken as a factual evidence. Now, it was around, this is his account, he said around 2 a.m., listen to this, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., this early hours, but it's ungodly hours, I call it. In the early morning of 29th of May 1966, a large number of houses started collecting in the Emir's palace. Remember, these people lived in the Sabongari, outside the palace, outside the walled city. So those who are allowed to enter the Emir's palace have to be vetted. They're all houses. Okay, they went in. Now, round about 6 a.m. in the morning, they then burst out from the palace, carrying sticks, machetes, daggers, axes, etc., and all other dangerous weapons. They spread themselves all over the town. They were looting, burning houses and shops. Some of the NA, Northern Authority Police, took active part. Let me repeat that. Some of the NA police took active part, while others made no attempt to bring the situation under control. So you're supposed to be law and order. Instead of stopping the mob, going around looting, killing, you actually take part and joining them and did nothing. So the attack was directed against people of southern Nigerian origin, with the exclusion of Yorubas. So Yorubas also from the south, but they were not taught. Only the Igbos were targeted, or people of eastern origin. Then one Mr. Joseph of Uji, okay, was stabbed to death that very morning. While the attack continued, the Emir of Katsina, if you are the Emir, you are the boss of the whole area. Whatever people say you do, they do. Whatever you say, rather, they will do. They're under your control. So the Emir of Katsina, Alhaji Usman Nagogo, the former northern minister, okay? So then there's a number. So Alhaji, let me repeat his name again. The Emir of Katsina was Alhaji Usman Nagogo. And then there's a former northern minister who was an MP, Alhaji Issa Kaita. Then there's an Alhaji Musa Tafida Yaradua. Then there's a former Ministry of Lagos Affairs, and Magaji Gari, the Emir's son, were parading the town up and down, cheering the looters on. So these are the responsible members of that very town. Instead of them bringing law and order, they're actually encouraging the mob to go on the rampage. My two big shops, this is the witness, my two big shops, this is AGK, my two big shops and stores were all looted, as well as my residence. Not a pin was left for me. They even swept the rooms. They swept the shop. They swept the stores with brooms. Can you imagine? The telephone number 152 Casino is one of the shops was removed, so he can't phone. So they moved in gangs, and each numbered about 300 to 400 people. Towards evening, every southerner resident in Katsina, repeat that, towards evening, every southerner resident in Katsina had been rendered homeless, hopeless, and penniless. We were therefore evacuated by Northern Authority Police to a place 2 miles from the town. So they rounded them up, took them to a place 2 miles away from the town. We numbered over 2,000, including women and children. We were not allowed to move out from the compound, which had but one gate. We suffered from both hunger and fear. On Monday, 30th May 1966, the military governor of the Northern Group of Provinces summoned the meeting of emirs and chiefs to state their grievances, because there's rioting now. So the military governor, Katsina, asked the emirs and all the chiefs to come for a meeting. So on the 31st of May 1966, the emir of Katsina left for Kaduna. That's where the meeting is being held. Kaduna is the capital then of the northern region. So they went to Kaduna to attend the meeting. And it was alleged that the emir, on leaving for Kaduna, ordered his men not to tamper with our life yet, pending his return and the result of their meeting. So give strict order. This will be rounded up. 2,000 or so people will be rounded up. Don't touch them until I return. On Wednesday, 1st of June, 1966, the Nigerian army arrived at the scene, and we were released forthwith. The Nigerian army then entered and released them. So on the following Thursday and Friday, 2nd and 3rd, respectively, some of us fled to Kanu. They escaped. Now, on that very Friday, 3/6/66 afternoon, the emir returned from Kaduna. And on Saturday, 4/6/66, no southerner was allowed to leave the town. He put another order and don't allow them to escape. Those who managed to escape were pursued, and many of them slaughtered in the way. Now, the violence was therefore renewed, and the worst inhuman acts were performed on the Saturday, 4/6/66. Now, the emir again took the lead, together with his team, comprising Alhaji Issa Kaita, former minister, Northern Nigeria Education Minister. Then they have Alhaji Musa Tafida Yarudua, who was former Federal Minister in Lagos Affairs. Then Magajin Gary, who is Lieutenant Colonel Katsina's twin brother, who is the emir's son. All these people joined in chasing and killing. Then the climax was reached when Southerners, seeing what has happened, ran and took refuge. Those who were behind, they ran into the police charge office. They ran into the police station. These people were locked inside the office, which were then packed full with refugees. They were set on fire. They ran to police and they were burnt inside the police. Okay? Burnt to ashes together with all the refugees therein. This Saturday episode affected many government employees who could not leave the town without the consent of the employer, as well as the independent business people who were tied down by their business links or the otherwise. None was left alive, except a few of us whom God hid away out of their sight, who live now to tell the story. Another devilish plan worthy of note was that as soon as the Saturday massacre started, the Katsina Provincial Secretary, instead of telephoning to Kanu to bring the armies close to rid of this scar, instead of telephoning Kanu to bring the armies, he chose to ride on his car to Kanu a distance of 108 miles away, in order to bring the army to himself. So now, why is he doing that? He can just pick up a phone and call them, and they come. But he chose to drive 108 miles. So the trick lies in that fact that before he could return to Katsina from Kanu, with the armed forces, the operation had been completed and many lives were lost. So all this tomfooleries. Now, the fact that a large and unknown number of people were burnt alive in police charge office made it highly impossible for anyone to give an accurate figure of the deaths. Also, many were killed and hidden away, and many thrown into wells and pits. So then, the gruesome incidents of the burning of Nigerian building at Katsina was confirmed by Miss Mabel Anabunwa, who's the 235th witness, whose husband, Mr. D.G. Anabuna, was one of the victims. She watched him die. Her evidence described as follows. This is Miss Anabuna. My name is Cecilia Mabel Anabuna. I joined my husband Katina on the 4th of August 1962 and returned to the East on the 18th of June 1966. After my husband was murdered on 4/6/66, I have 2 children. My husband had 3 children from the first wife who died earlier. I am now caring for those 3 children and my own 2. My husband was a first class clerk in the Ministry of Agriculture, Katsina, and also a special constable. Now, on the 4th of June 1966, he returned suddenly to inform me that the incident of looting, which occurred on the 29th of May, was being repeated. I immediately backed my baby, and together we escaped to the nearest police station. While we were pursuing by the armed village, we ran into the police station. We were admitted inside by the police station